that case, we're live. We're on the internet, live talking about movies.
Beautiful. So I haven't told you about this yet, Hugh, but I figured I'd tell you on stream just so to find people in the chat in case any of them were like, "Oh, why can't I send super chats?" Because that was a problem we had last week and we are going to have again this week. Well, I let me just make sure we're live before we say it. Are we live? Are we live on the internet? And there it is. Okay, so the reason that you guys weren't able to send super chats last week, and the reason you were not able to send them today, should you feel inclined to do so, is because YouTube's automated system flagged our channel for just like repurposing and reusing content, even though our channel clearly doesn't. It clearly meets the guidelines to not be flagged for such a thing. It was auto flagged anyway. So now I have to like record a
Ah,
video and send it in to appeal the whole
what?
nonsense. Yep.
Wait,
So
the
at the
only
moment,
way to solve this problem
oh yeah,
is by recording a video.
yes, you have to send in a video explaining I guess that you're a real person and what your channel does and how it meets their guidelines. Yeah, it's really annoying and really cringe. Thanks, YouTube. But I will do that and sort that out. And so hopefully we'll be back up in terms of being able to make money on YouTube. Thanks, automated YouTube system flagging us as a spam channel for no reason. We really appreciate that. But we are here anyway. We are live on the internet despite YouTube's best efforts, and we are going to talk about movies. We're going to continue the Disney arc. Isn't that exciting, Q?
I'm
Tell the people
very
how
excited.
excited you are.
I'm very excited to talk about these two movies, actually, Jamie. These two were, yeah, I haven't seen Robin Hood in forever. I don't think I've seen Winnie the Pooh since I was probably 6 years old. Uh, I had a great time with both of these movies over the last couple weeks, including with the entire project of, doing all the food and the interesting
Oh yes, the
menu items that we
themed
do, the
meals.
themed
Yes.
meals that my girlfriend likes to do for these. So for Robin Hood, we took quite a few tasting history. I think the entire day we just recreated tasting history with Max Miller content.
Oh,
Uh,
from like medieval England and such.
yes, exactly.
How was that?
It was all right. Those were probably not like it was fun to make. It was exhausting to do in the kitchen. It was like an entire day in the kitchen for very little payoff because, as you might imagine, the medievals did not include a lot of spices or a lot of they're pretty rustic recipes. So we
Yeah.
made venison pasties that were like basically they cracked apart like clay pots that you might keep wine in.
Did they make the clay pot breaking sound effect, the famous
Kind
one?
of, yeah. It
Yeah.
was pretty close. They were very brittle, very dry, and difficult to eat. And then, of course, venison is not particularly well known for being a saucy kind of meat, right? It's kind of infamous for being dry and gamey. We managed to
So it
avoid the
goes.
gaminess, but those were a difficult one to choke down. The Winnie the Pooh stuff ended up going much better. Uh,
I assume there was a lot of honey involved.
there was a good amount of honey involved in the breakfast one. We actually managed to get our hands on a couple pounds of ground kangaroo.
Oh, you
Yes,
ate roux
we
and
ate Roo and
kangaroo?
Kanga. Yeah,
Man, brutal.
brutal, brutal shit.
How was kangaroo meat? I've never had it.
Pretty damn good, dude.
Yeah?
It kind of lamb like in its
Okay.
flavor,
I
and
like lamb.
yeah,
I like lamb a lot. So, wait, what cut of kangaroo was it?
this is ground, so I'm assuming probably like whatever the off, like whatever's
The worst
left.
bits?
The like with beef, the stuff,
Yeah.
chuck roast probably, whatever you would use as like boiling or stew meat of that kind, right? But we did also because in order to get it with the free shipping, we had to spend a pretty penny on a bunch of other exotic game meats. We did also get like a 2 pound kangaroo tenderloin that we're gonna cook at some unspecified point. Very excited to try
Yeah,
as well.
pretty good. Sounds pretty good. Yes, hello there in the chat. Hope you're all doing well. Yes, EFAP is going on their anniversary stream. I was on it for a little bit this morning. It was pretty fun. They should be wrapping up eventually, but we're just going to get started anyway because we got two movies to talk about today, and I don't feel like waiting for them to be done. So here we are. And here you are, the few people that are here instead of there. We appreciate you. If you missed the very beginning of the stream, YouTube's auto system flagged our channel for no good reason, and so we can't currently get super chats or earn money on the channel. But I'm going to work to sort that out. Thanks, YouTube. Today we're going to continue the Disney arc. I know Matthew Leach, you're here. You're a big fan of the Disney arc, and we're a big fan of you being here. So we're going to
Ah,
continue the arc with Robin Hood and the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. We're going to
indeed.
start with Robin Hood. Robin Hood,
How
movie
how
came out.
how funny too that Matthew Leach's most recent comment does indeed correlate to some of what we're going to talk
Oh, I don't
about
know if you saw
today.
the description of the video, but yeah, the Rabbit is not a big fan of these tickers.
Well,
Mm-mm.
I have a little surprise for anybody who's jumped ship from EFAP to come here for this. I have a little AI generated meme that I've been
Oh, you
using.
didn't make that yourself in Blender?
I didn't. No, I don't have.
I could believe you would do such a thing.
You what? Use Blender to make these things?
Well, I mean, like it looks kind of 3D. I don't know. I'm just saying you could have. It's possible.
No,
But
I
anyway,
use the racist AI. I use Grok because
oh, that
it
is
doesn't have nearly as many qualms about making racially
about
sensitive
making memes
jokes.
like that. Yeah, yeah, we like that about it, I suppose. Yeah, but we're gonna talk about Robin Hood and the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. We're in the 70s now of the Disney era. Walt Disney himself has passed away. He passed away, I think, right before Jungle Book came out, right? So this is post Disney, and we're gonna talk a little bit. We
Yeah.
talked a little bit on the previous streams how we think they're doing in the post Disney era. We haven't quite hit the lowest points we're gonna hit. At least that's the common consensus, right? The
Yeah, the
common
common
consensus.
consensus is that actually, like, I think the common consensus, and let me just double check here. The common consensus, yeah, is that after The Rescuers, which is the next movie in the list, that The
Mhm.
Rescuers is the end of what they tend to consider the Bronze Age of Disney.
At
Um,
which point it goes into the Dark Ages. Is that what they're called?
yes, the Dark Ages begin with The Fox and the Hound. Yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't hit what broadly people consider to be the lowest point in this sort of Disney arc, but we're seeing that we saw a little bit of a fall off after. What was the one we did after Jungle Book?
Aristocats.
Aristocats. Yeah, we both liked but didn't love the Aristocats. We noticed a little bit of a fall off immediately, and I think some of that I still I feel his absence, Walt Disney's absence in these two movies that we're going to talk
Oh
about
yeah.
today. Though I like them both. I suppose we should start with Robin Hood because that one came first. Robin Hood came out in 1973. Hugh, what'd you think of Robin Hood?
I I really liked Robin Hood. I thought this was like I don't know if I would call it quite a return to form, right? I don't know that I think it stacks up particularly well against that's the stiffest competition from the previous two eras.
Sure. And the competition is stiff indeed.
Yeah, but this one it kind of blew the Aristocats out of the water for me. Honestly, I thought this one had a
I
lot
agree.
more going for it.
I think the story's stronger.
The story's stronger, and a lot of the animation is better. Although we will see that they reused a lot from a couple of the previous
Yeah, I
entries.
think the first thing you notice, I think, when you rewatch Robin Hood, especially if you're watching all these movies in order as we are, is that right out of the gate, this one feels a little on the cheap side in terms of the animation. They're certainly reusing a lot of the assets that they had in Jungle Book, and they're using a lot of the same voice actors that they've used in the past couple movies, that is the Aristocats and Jungle Book. And so it does feel a little bit cheap at the beginning. The animation is not the most sophisticated of some of these classic Disney films. It's still pretty good. It's still very charming. I like the designs of the characters and everything. But like right out of the gate, it's like, okay, this feels like they cut some corners in a few places. That said though, it's a very strong story as it is, just an adaptation of Robin Hood. It's simplified for the kiddos. but it is Robin Hood, so it's quite a strong story, and so in that regard, I think it's actually quite a bit better than the Aristocats, just because the story is a lot more compelling all the way through. I thoroughly enjoyed Robin Hood. I'm a
Yeah.
fan of this movie.
Yeah, I did find out some kind of interesting trivia about this one too. That so the whole movie, I was waiting for. So there I've been listening to some of these songs, on Spotify on the albums, just because
Sure.
especially the Robin Hood, the Oodalali song is just it's a really
A
atmosphere.
lot of
Yeah,
great music in this movie.
really good. Um, I was listening to the album for Robin Hood on Spotify, and I was waiting the whole time, wondering when Louis Prima was going to, have his appearance, right? Because on the album that is on Spotify, there is a song by Louis Prima that plays that, like, it sounds like it would play over the ending credits of a movie, which they didn't do in this one. So I was a little
No.
bit confused. Uh, as it turns out, Louis Prima, back when this came out, was so upset that Disney did not let him be part of this movie that he went to Buena Vista Records, which was like technically still, I guess powerful enough to stand up to Disney in some aspects at this time.
Well, there's still the studio,
Yeah, I,
right?
I guess
Yeah,
so. Yeah,
Buena
they are
Vista's
are they still
they are the
distributing?
production. I think so, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
because they
when you
haven't
look at
moved
the
on to that.
credits, the first thing that comes up is Buena Vista, then Walt Disney Animation Studios. So yeah, they're still in charge, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. So they're still kind of in charge, and he is signed to Buena Vista Records. He goes and makes a concept album that is entirely a like made up story that he did of like where Robin Hood and King Louis from the Jungle Book become like best friends or something. And he like
That sounds great, by the way.
I know, right? He released the album. The album was a big hit, and Disney ended up having to put his music on the official Robin Hood release album, even though none of it appears in the movie. All because he
Interesting.
was so disappointed that they didn't let him come back for any roles in the movie whatsoever.
Did he just want to be in the movie regardless, or was he specifically looking to be the minstrel
I
character?
think from what I can tell, he just wanted to be in the movie. He just really
Okay.
wanted to be in it, and they didn't want his voice at any point. So he created a concept album about King Louis and Robin Hood's friendship.
Interesting. Okay, so Walt and his older brother, really quick, Walt and his older brother Roy O. Disney formed Buena Vista Film Distribution Company to handle North American distribution of their own products. Right, so they created Buena Vista Distribution Company.
Oh, okay.
In case you were curious. Anyway,
Yeah, that
yeah, Louis Prima. I love me some Louis Prima. I don't know where I'd put him in this movie if
I,
I were
I
if I were
think he
forced
could
to.
probably do a fine job as the sheriff.
Yeah, but I like who we got as the sheriff a
That's
lot.
true. That is true.
The same guy who was like the Basset Hound in Aristocats,
Yeah,
the one who's like, "I'll say when the movie's over."
he could have been
Okay, it's
Friar
over.
Tuck too.
He could have maybe been I mean, but I really like all the
Yeah,
voice
I
acting
think
in this
yeah. So
movie.
that's like all of the voice acting. Regardless of the fact that quite a bit of it is the same as the Aristocats, right? Like the Basset Hounds and Phil Harris is back. They're all great, right? They're all
Yeah.
excellent voice actors. So you're not going to hear too many complaints about reusing the talent.
Matthew Leach and Ephraim Winslow, yeah, are talking about the reusing of certain assets and character designs. That one is probably a stronger complaint if you were
Yeah,
going to make it than the reusing of voice actors. That's totally fine. But yes, Kaa, the snake from the Jungle Book, is very, very like almost identical to the snake in this movie. The snake in this movie,
yeah.
whose name I don't remember, and obviously the design
It's Sir
of
Hiss. His name is Sir Hiss.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the design of Baloo in the Jungle Book has also basically been reused for this movie as well.
yeah. Little John is
It,
essentially like it's the same
and
voice
he
actor,
and it's
and
the same
yeah,
voice actor, and he basically has the same build. They just changed the color of his
yeah.
fur. It's the same,
Well, yeah,
you know.
right down to the point where like at when he's dancing with the chicken in the
Mhm.
scene later on. It's the
Same
same
animation.
animation as Baloo dancing with King Louie in the Jungle Book.
Yeah. In case I forget to mention it later, there's even a bit of reused animation in Winnie the Pooh where Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh
Yeah.
are walking along a tree branch. That's the same shot from the Jungle Book. So they basically, as soon as Walt Disney died, they started like what cannibalizing themselves a little bit to cut corners.
Yeah.
I think
The
that's
Winnie the
pretty
Pooh
telling.
one is interesting because the Winnie the Pooh movie is a compilation of shorts that had been theatrically released prior to prior to,
Oh, I didn't know
that
that. I know it's a series
with
of vignettes, obviously, but I didn't know those all appeared as short
yeah,
films
they had
before.
all appeared as short films prior to that, but then they were compiled and released with some stitching together in between.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that that's probably what happened there, right? Is like that they needed an ending because they didn't do that, originally with the animated shorts that went before, other
Sure.
movies. So they just went, like, we got some Jungle Book assets we can use. Like, let's just do
Yeah.
that real quick, slap one together.
But yeah, in Robin Hood, some of the character designs and some of the animations are repurposed from previous films. Many of the same voice actors from previous films, though the latter is not really so much a problem because I really like all the voice actors in this. I don't know where I'd put Louis Prima in the movie. I'm okay with him not being in here, especially because our equivalent to Louis Prima from the Jungle Book is definitely
Yeah, that's
Roger Miller
yeah.
as the rooster, who is incredible in this movie. I'm a big fan of Roger Miller. He's got a lot of great songs. Are you familiar with his music?
Yes, I am.
King of the Road and all that sort of
Yes,
fun stuff.
I
He's great.
love King of the Road is probably one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best country songs of all time. It's very, very good. And but just the voice acting across the board in this movie and the music across the board in Robin Hood is excellent. I like all of it. And it's quite varied. You know, there's all sorts of different kinds of music in this movie. There's some that are sort of mimicking a sort of faux, like medieval English kind of style with recorders and things of that nature. It's pretty fun. Some of it's a bit jazzy. Some of it's a bit like country folk singer songwriter storyteller music. And then there's even some fun gags where at one point where the chicken uh, is sort of like running through all of the rhinoceros guards and they're playing like a fight song from a football game. You know, it's quite
Yeah,
diverse in terms of the musical styles and tones, and it's all working. A lot of the songs are really nice. Probably my favorite song in the whole movie is the love song. I think it's just called Love that plays when Robin Hood and
Maid Marian.
Marian reunite and we get that little it's a little like can you feel the love tonight moment
Yeah,
where they reunite and they're walking through the twilight. That song is gorgeous. That feels very old Disney where it's got sort of that old fashioned almost big band crooner sort of instrumentation, very pretty. That song, fun fact, also plays in the Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I which I watched again recently. It's really funny that they chose that song considering that they're both foxes. But anyway, excellent music in this movie. And, I think the animation being a little cheap compared to some of the previous Disney entries doesn't bother me so much because the story is quite strong.
yeah,
It's simple, it's straightforward, but it's really good. It's heroic. We got like really interesting and the stakes are high, I guess is what I would say. Unlike the Aristocats, it doesn't feel trivial, right? Because, uh, Prince John here is threatening to hang the friar, among other things.
yes, yeah.
He's a pretty bad guy. Is he maybe the most interesting Disney villain? I don't know. He's all right
Yeah,
because he,
I think he's funny, right? He's a good clown
yes,
villain. He's not,
hmm he's
we're not,
pathetic.
yeah, we're not looking at, like, this isn't Ursula, this isn't Scar, this
No,
isn't like,
there's a little bit of proto Scar in this in his mannerisms.
yeah,
I
like
would
sort of
say,
effeminate,
yeah.
and kind of, yeah,
But he's more of a baby. He's more pathetic. He's more designed to be laughed at. But he is pretty fantastically cruel despite his incompetence. And the stakes are very high because he is, you know, grinding the poor people of his village into dust and even, threatens to hang several of them. So the stakes
yeah,
are high, even if he is a bit kind of buffoonish as far as Disney villains go. But he is funny and there are a lot of fun gags with him. Um, I like Robin Hood a lot. It's like a interesting trickster hero character. It's really quite strong. He gets to save the girl. It ends with it's like a lot of the great Disney movies we've seen so far with sort of like trickstery or outlaw heroes. Like, oh god, the Tramp, for example,
Yeah.
among other things. It sort of ends with them sort of becoming civilized, and there's a little bit of that in the Jungle Book as well, right? Where it's like they're an outlaw, they're a wild man or a wild boy, and they sort of like they use their skills and their heroism and their bravery to save the day, and then ultimately they sort of become civilized and enter into society by getting married at the end. It's a really strong narrative structure that sort of underpins this whole movie. I'm quite fond of it.
Yeah, I would say so. I am as well. I like the overall. I think that Disney's really kind of at their best, especially in this in this genre. They're kind of at their best when they're doing the medieval, like classic medieval tales of heroism, right? Like for
Yeah.
me, Sleeping Beauty is still number one because of the way that the way that it is. But I love this like old school idealization of we're taking English myths and bringing them, or like myths and folklore, and bringing them into a modern, doing them in a modern way for that audience. I think
For the
Disney
kids,
for
yeah.
the kids, and I think that's Disney's really kind of at their best when they're
Or for
doing
the
that.
family, to be more precise,
Yeah,
yes. It is accessible for kids, but it's for the whole family. Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think they really shine, especially when they're telling stories of heroism like this. Like, basically, the more archetypal the story is, the more the better it's going to be as far as these classic Disney movies go. I think Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, those are kind of as archetypal as you get. I would throw Pinocchio in there as well, and I think it's kind of easy to see why those are among the most beloved and, in our opinion, the strongest of the bunch. And this is another one where like the bones of the story are just really solid because they're time tested, if you will. They've stood the test of time for a reason. And it's a really solid story about a man. It's interesting because when the movie started, the first thing we hear Lil Jon and Robin Hood talking about is like stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And I'm like, I couldn't remember if this version of Robin Hood leaned in a sort of like modern tendency to make him more of like a socialist
yeah.
kind of hero. You know, I couldn't remember how this movie did it. I remember that it was in the 70s, and so I got a little worried. But
Yeah, but
but
it's
it's
like
really
10
not.
years after that first wave of like, hippie socialism stuff. So I think
Yeah.
yeah.
I wasn't sure exactly how far they would lean in that direction, but they really don't. Like, ultimately, thematically, the conclusion Robin Hood makes is that, like, he doesn't have a problem with the king and the order of their society in general. It's just this particular prince pretending to be king sucks,
Yeah.
right? He's the worst. He's a tyrant. He doesn't deserve it. The true king, Richard the Lionheart, is who we want back, and he's off fighting the Crusades. And this movie is, by implication, very pro Crusades. So I like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, because Richard the Lionheart is the good, brave king. This and yeah, so I was a little worried about that as well, right? That it was going to end up, and especially because they use that. I think it's a smart idea to bring Roger Miller in and have him do, an American folklore song, for the movie, and for that, like, because it resonates very well with that time in American history, right? Like he's kind of doing a ballad version of Robin Hood that you might have expected to hear in the 1930s during the Great Depression, right? Like it wouldn't be completely out of place in something like "Oh
Sure.
Brother, Where Art Thou," you know? And I
Yeah.
like that.
Musically, yeah.
Yeah, I like thematically tying those two together is a really smart decision, right? To like
Yeah.
kind of because those that was big concern, right? Is that times are tough for everybody, and the people at the top are, if they're greedy and selfish and, not
And they don't
particularly,
care about their
they're
constituents.
yeah, they don't care about the people or the land. They only care about making themselves rich and, being and entertaining themselves and,
Yeah,
sitting
they
on
have
a
a
throne they didn't
vampiric
earn, right?
yeah, they
Yeah,
have a
exactly.
vampiric relationship with the people instead of custodians of them, you know?
Yeah, but
But,
I think that they mitigate that pretty well because Robin Hood's, like he's kind of flying by the seat of his pants a little bit, right? Like
the chaotic figure, yeah, for
he's a
sure, in
chaotic
there.
figure, but when he's captured and they start, reading off his list of crimes, and, they say, like, in the name of the king, you're going to be hung or executed or whatever. He says, not the true king, like he's an agent of chaos, but one who, like you said, appreciates the order, the true order, right? The
Yes,
bravery, like he wouldn't be doing these things if Richard the Lionheart
we're
was
here.
in
If it
power and
weren't
here, right?
necessary,
Yeah.
yes. And ultimately, like, once Richard the Lionheart comes back, then he gives it up, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, he's kind of, he's a vigilante-like figure but there's a longing for, like, a normal life. Partly it's that he once made Marion, right? And but he knows that she wouldn't go for the life he currently lives, where he's always on the run, he's going from place to place, and it's like that's no life for her. And by implication, he's sort of longing for that life himself, and ultimately he gets it in the end once everything is set right and the proper king returns to the throne and our sort of like slightly more pathetic and buffoonish Scar equivalent is ousted, then he doesn't have to be the vigilante anymore, and he can just be the normal man. And
Yeah.
so it's really strong. Good stuff, man. I really like some. Matthew Lee says I really like some of the voices, like the Big Wolf and Vulture Guard have unique voices that reveal that the actors have experienced some shit. Yeah, I, the sheriff character has a great voice. I think we mentioned it, he's the Basset Hound from Aristocats as well.
Yeah.
But all the characters have very very distinct voices that serve the purpose of the story quite well. Um, all very distinct. Like you could close your eyes, you know exactly who the character is. It's just strong voice acting. It's the kind of voice acting we don't get as much anymore because modern movies are so addicted to just getting famous celebrities to voice their characters, and you kind of stop hiring people who just have unbelievably distinct voices sometimes. Someone mentioned it earlier that, like, despite how, compared to the best Disney movies, this one's a little on the cheap side in terms of the animation and everything, but still clears most animated movies being
Yeah.
made today as far as I'm concerned. It's like vibrant and colorful, and the shot compositions are really strong, and the voice acting is really strong as well.
Yeah.
It's fun, goofy.
I like how they reincorporate a lot of so like the song, that opens the movie is Roger Miller singing the Oodalali, Lolly, golly what a day. And I like how they reincorporate that little, that line into
Yeah,
the movie frequently throughout. Right, so the characters are all, when they get excited or when they're, downbeat, they all say "oodalali" in a different kind of way, and it really makes it feel like it's all working coherently together,
yeah,
right? Like it's very little details like that, but they're so important, and they're not used nowadays when you're watching animated movies. They just, they'll throw in a song that's kind of disconnected from the rest of the film, and,
sure.
that's the song that people remember, right? Because,
Yeah, I think we gotta make kids' movies musicals again. I think it's really important. I like a lot of those classic Pixar movies a lot, but I do sort of bemoan the fact that they sort of brought an end to the kids' movie musical. So
yeah,
many of the best animated family movies of all time are musicals, and I think people forget that, and they forget how much the music really helps, I don't know, sell the story and make like a total aesthetic experience. that the movie provides, because the use of music in this movie isn't just really catchy, full of really great songs, but it's telling the story quite well. With all like the Udalali refrain sort of like representing something like the joy of the townspeople and like seeing it at the beginning and then seeing it disappear and then return again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very simple, basic things like that, where songs and themes like returning and morphing and changing over the course of a piece of music or over the course of a story are really strong narrative devices that are just lost in a lot of movies. I mean, I like Randy Newman and I like all the songs he wrote for Toy Story, but some of them are a little, they feel like they're
They're,
just kind of
some of
slapped
them are,
on top
yeah.
a little bit.
I'll save more of that discussion for when we do eventually come around to doing the Pixar arc, right? Like when we get
Yeah, we'll
into
get to
that.
that eventually. I think
But
one of the
there is
last
one that,
Disney movies to sort of end the practice. I think one of the last ones was Mulan, right?
yeah,
And
Tarzan is
Mulan,
probably, well, no, because Tarzan is more in the
Tarzan
Randy
only has
Newman,
one
Randy Newman.
song that the animals or the characters are singing in the universe,
Yeah,
which is the
that's the
trash in
trash
the
in the
camp.
camp, right? Yeah.
Otherwise, that's all non-diegetic, like Toy Story.
Yeah, that's I was about to say like Phil Collins kind of does that instead because it's more like in the
It's still
internal
really good.
monologues. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm fine with
Yeah.
it. I like those movies, but I do miss this. I miss when these movies were musicals.
The one that I was going to say the one from Toy Story that always kind of like highlighted I think for me like the maybe the problem that I have with the music being non-diegetic like that in these movies and kind of like maybe taking away a little bit, right, is the one where Buzz is kind of depressed after finding the commercial where he's a toy,
Sure.
and then he
Yeah.
starts like he goes to try to fly. Is that no? I can fly, you'll see. Oh no, I can't fly. I'm falling. Like that. And it's just like
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man. Like this just feels like you're
Listen,
describing what's happening on the screen,
I like it. I like it. I will defend that. I think that's a really strong moment in the movie. But I do miss the way it used to be. I like it when characters sing. And I think this is a really solid movie musical. So many of the
Yeah.
songs are really strong and they're serving the story quite well. It's very charming. This movie is like excessively charming, I would say. It's just really, really strong.
Yeah.
But I mentioned Mulan because I think Mulan was the last one. And the interesting thing, because Mulan kind of represents the death of the Disney movie musical in a way, because it is a musical, and then, but only like, what is it, like 2/3 of the movie is because they're singing a girl worth fighting for, and then they
Then
get
they
cut
get to
off.
yeah.
Yeah, right when they see, like, the genocided village, and then there's no more singing. And I can understand that choice in the context of the movie, right? Because things get really serious, but you might hope for a song to come back at the end once they save the day, but it's almost like a, "No, we've gotten too serious, we can't do the songs anymore." And then they just stopped doing them. Like,
Like
I
in the context of of Mulan, I think it's a strong choice, but like it is funny that that is sort of exactly the point where they decide like, yeah, no more songs in like no more characters singing the songs. That is an
Oh,
interesting.
Dave L brings up, Frozen, right? Because Frozen is a sort of return to that. It's more of a musical.
Yeah.
That is true, but also because musicals, along with literally everything else, have also gotten bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like they've experienced a decline as well. And so, maybe I'm asking for some things I don't really want because no one seems to be capable of writing a good musical these days. But in principle, I do want more kids movies to be musicals because I think, like basically all the best ones were.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, so I
that's the music.
so it's talking about this movie being excessively charming, by the way. That I've seen a few references already to this. Strong argument to be made that this movie is the birth of the furry. This is
Yeah,
sort of like the atomic
yeah.
bomb, the Oppenheimer moment for furries. I
Listen,
did notice. It began. You could almost argue with the Aristocats because there's quite a large number of women who fucking love O'Malley the alley cat. Right now,
yeah,
I have pointed
he's a
out
bad boy.
several times O'Malley the alley cat is just a cat. Like you're really, you're really getting a little bit. You're like, "Ooh, you're getting close. You're getting
As
close. Yeah, I
far
know
as
he
the
talks, but there's like, yeah,
anthropomorphization goes, the Aristocats is really light on that actually, in
yeah,
terms of the way they move and carry themselves. Unlike this, where they wear clothes, for
yeah, and they walk
example, and
on
walk
two
on top.
legs
Yeah,
and they fight with swords and stuff, and he's like swashbuckling and charming, and he's got like,
yeah.
I see. So yeah, this movie, the Oppenheimer moment, for the birth of the furry. You could probably say. I don't know if there's anything really like Aristocats is like proto furries, but I don't know if there's anything that really, like earlier that would.
Not really, and
Yeah.
it like, the main culprits are the designs of Robin Hood and Maid Marian. They're very, very strong designs. They're really good character designs. Like, I I don't like furries, alright? I don't, but it's not like you can't understand
Well,
that they see in these character designs. They're really strong. You know what I mean? Like the movies. It's an interesting line to walk because the movies have to sort of it has to make Maid Marian very pretty for the sake of the story as
yeah.
well. You know what I mean? And they do a really good job of it. And she's got a great voice actress and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I do think this is probably the Oppenheimer moment for furries. Like for any individual furry, it might be like whatever Lola Bunny or The Lion
Well,
King or
yeah.
whatever. But
The the Lola, at least Lola Bunny was drawn with like they drew her deliberately with thighs like that to make like Lola
yeah,
Bunny
there's
was designed to be sexed
by
up,
perverts for
by
perverts.
perverts for perverts.
Yes.
Robin Hood has to work at it a little bit, like it has to work to make him charming and
Yeah.
charming and charismatic and kind of like a swashbuckling heroic type figure, right? Like it's not you don't just get away with it by drawing him, you know, as conventionally attractive, fox man kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Well,
gotta
I
do
mean,
some
just
work.
like the characters themselves, in terms of the personalities they represent, are attractive to people as well. And then if you have a particular kind of like screw loose in your brain, you associate sexual attraction with the fox design of the characters.
Yeah.
And then you're off to the races.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like it's like
I
something
do
in your
I do
brain clicks, and then now you're addicted forever.
Yeah. I just really like both of these characters. I like Robin Hood a lot, and I like Maid Marian. Maid Marian's a really great character. I especially like the way she is with the kids in the beginning when they sort of go over the castle wall looking for his arrow.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, dude,
very
what a great little
charming.
scene.
Oh, here's the other thing I wanted to talk about is that, man, this movie and Winnie the Pooh, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, like Disney movies used to really understand children and
Yeah,
like how they behaved and how they talk, especially. I really like the way like the little rabbits talk. They do the little thing. They do the thing that little kids do, where they're telling a story, and then my mom said I could go to the store. Like they take weird pauses and
yeah,
like their inflections all wrong, and they like leave those weird pauses in the lines with the kids. It's pretty funny. And the kids just behave in a very believable way. Like when Maid Marian says, like, "Oh," like because the little bunny is pretending to be Robin Hood, and they're play acting, and the bunny rescues Maid Marian, and she goes like, "Oh, well, if you were Robin, then I'd probably kiss you or something like that." And he's like, "Ew, gross, cooties." And she kisses him on the cheek anyway, and all the other bunnies start making fun of him, and he's embarrassed. It's just like a
yeah.
really nice little human moment. It's great. And I feel
It's
like
God, dude.
modern animated movies for kids are not made by people with kids anymore.
Oh
That's
wow. You think
uh,
modern? I'm sorry. Wait. Are you saying you think modern animated movies for kids are made by the weirdos who
yeah, yeah.
sexualize Robin Hood and
Well, there's not just there's the furry thing of it all, but also just I think a lot of them are not people who are making things like for their kids who watch cartoons. They're like adults who don't have kids and still watch cartoons. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I think you can tell. I think you could tell.
Yeah,
I
maybe a little
mean,
bit.
I don't know. I feel like when you watch even classic Pixar movies, you can tell that the people making those movies have kids, love kids, understand them, and like how they work and how they think and how to appeal to them in narrative form and stuff like that. And I just feel like you're seeing less and less of that as time goes on because you watch some of these movies and it's refreshing how well they seem to understand how children think and behave. You know, it's like, oh man, I haven't seen that in a movie in a while. You know,
Yeah.
it's like really good character writing for child characters. You know, and I also like, I wish I could remember his name. What's the name of the little boy rabbit who wants to be Robin Hood?
Oh. Hold on. I'll find it.
Okay, you find it. But he's really good, and that's a great little character, like of a little kid who, aspires to be the hero that Robin Hood is, and he wants to be like him and he wants to imitate him. It's just like a really strong choice to put in this movie. I like him a lot. Can't remember his name though.
Skippy.
Yes,
His
Maid
name is
Marian.
Skippy.
Skippy. Yes, I like Skippy, and I like Skippy pretending to be Robin Hood at the end, and Maid Marian is sort of like playing along, and then it's an interesting way of establishing her relationship to Robin Hood before they ever reunite. You know what I mean? Like in a sort of like play acted sort of fun way, you sort of establish the sort of like longing she has for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's good, really effective. I'd say this movie's structured very well. You know what I mean? We establish the stakes and we establish the relationships. It's one of the longer early Disney movies actually, only by a little bit. It's an
Yeah.
hour and 23 minutes
Yeah,
long,
that's
which is
pushing it.
about 10 minutes longer than most of these movies tend to be from this period. But I think it uses its time well, and it has enough twists and turns and like a really strong narrative structure so that you're never really bored and you can like take these little excursions with the music or like little character moments, but you always feel like there's forward momentum because you know what we're building to. And I really like the whole back half of this movie, especially when the stakes get really high, because Robin Hood manages to get Maid Marian back and avoid being killed in the process. But then, as a punishment, um, Prince John is like punishing everyone in Nottingham, basically. And so he has to come back and save the day. And there's a lot of proto The Lion King in this movie, actually. But, like the whole town is like miserable and sad and everything's cold and dreary and he has to sort of come in and rescue everyone. There's a kind of like a stealth mission. There's even like 60s spy movie stealth music when he's like
Yeah. Yeah.
raiding the tower. It's fun, man. Like I like the freedom this movie has to like use interesting musical styles and the language of certain genre movies sort of hit all the beats along this like grand adventure.
Yeah. I mean, overall, they're doing a really good job of adapting the story of Robin Hood. I think it's pretty one for one, They do some cartoonish comedy beats that really take advantage of,
Yeah,
the medium
it's
that they're doing.
simplified.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way, I
Yeah.
would say. Like the villain is a bit more like, choosing to make him like pathetic and a buffoon is a bit more like, like a child-friendly version of this type of villain. But, the broad strokes of it are all there,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and I like how like they make fun of him for being cowardly and everything like that. But I think one of the maybe the pitfalls of doing that is that it doesn't quite feel like the fairy tale folklore. Like
Yeah.
it kind of devolves into more of like a slapstick thing at certain points, as opposed to getting that like symbolic fairy tale and folklore,
Yeah.
that really
I think
powerful imagery like from Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella or like the Sword and
who
Stone.
have more aggressively competent and maliciously evil villains than this movie does. This movie, like he's like we said before, he's very cruel, but he's kind of an idiot and he's bumbling and he's kind of stupid and pathetic. And so they sort of do that to keep it light, and it works. It's a fun romp. but it doesn't have maybe it doesn't go as deep as it could. I
Yeah, and
think
it
maybe
doesn't
he's
it doesn't have the gravitas that it probably like. I think that if John was a bit less of like just a big loser and was
yeah,
more of it had a little bit more Maleficent or like maybe a little more
or Scar.
Scar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I think this movie would really be up there for in like the all-timer kind of position, right? I think
Yeah, I
one of
agree.
the
I think he's the weakest part about it. Not that he's bad, but like we're missing something.
yeah. And I think that like that's one of the you can kind of feel that absence now that Walt is dead, right? Like there's more we're doing more like, fun, goofy, slapsticky kind of romps, right? Like Aristocats had quite a bit of those too. Lots of scenes of
Yes.
Edgar,
That
you
was a
know,
very frivolous movie, I
yeah,
would say.
yeah, frivolous. That's a good word for it. We're doing a lot like we have a lot more frivolity in these movies than we did earlier on in like the peak, of what these films represent, right? And I
Yeah.
think that I wonder how much Walt's death had to do with that lack, especially in these kinds of heroic stories where, there is, a pretty high stakes
Y
potential, right, for
yeah,
where the
like,
plot
if
could go.
his sensibilities were keeping them more balanced, and then when he disappears, things get a little bit more like, "Ah, it's for the kids," you know?
Yeah.
I think that there's maybe something to that. Georges Rex says he would be better if they cut the thumb sucking entirely. That's my least favorite part about
Yeah.
him. I know you're supposed to be kinda disgusted by it and think he's pathetic, like, and it's working, it's effective, but I that's my least favorite part about him. It
Yeah.
makes him
Well, that part, like you said just now, right? That feels very much like it's for the the kids, right? It's to be
yes.
like, oh, look at like he's a thumb sucking little baby, like how
You don't wanna
kids.
be a baby, do you?
Yeah, it, it, that yeah, I agree. That part is my least favorite aspect of the. I would say of the movie in general. Honestly, I think like
Yes.
that element just it keeps him because I think the voice actor for King John is fucking amazing. He's so
Yeah, he's
funny.
doing a good job.
He's
Yeah,
so
and it
funny, and he's got like this great, iconic sort of bumbling boob kind of laugh. His like is so good.
yeah.
Like it's
So,
really unique and iconic, and I just wish that he was a little bit more competent to kind
yeah,
of make things seem. I don't know, like to give them some more weight, because as it is, frivolous is the word that I would use
a
for
little
him.
bit,
But
yeah, in defense of the forces of antagonism in this movie. He's pathetic and embarrassing and not the smartest, but he does have an unbelievable amount of power over all the other characters. And so because he has so much power over them in terms of like personnel and the means to to use force and violence and all that sort of stuff, like he is a significant threat still. And he has forces of like armed guards and stuff, and the sheriff is interesting. We'll get more to him, but sheriff balances him out a little bit. He's a bit more cruel, but even he could stand to be a little
yeah,
more
he
competent.
could be a little more competent and a little more like because he is sort of bumbling buffoonery also. Like he's kind of played off as a joke for a good
Yeah.
portion of it, right? Like
Yeah, and that's what it's missing. I think if I were to change anything, well, first of all, I get rid of the thumb sucking just because I don't really care for that in particular. But if we're going to keep Prince John as pathetic and not very smart, but he has all this power over people and he's cruel and selfish, so he still poses a threat. I would like his sheriff to be more competent. I would like his sheriff to be like something of the real villain in air quotes. You know what I mean? Where like he's the one that's actually really dangerous and especially cruel and competent, such that, Robin Hood does a lot of really cool heroic things in this movie and he risks his life to save people and there's a lot of great moments for Robin's heroism, but it would all feel a bit more satisfying if his opponents were more competent.
yeah,
And they're just not the most competent in this movie.
they're not the most. They're not even top 10 most competent villains in like the Disney. canon, I would
No,
say.
certainly not.
Nobody's
Certainly not.
tapping, Prince John for
Or even the
like,
sheriff. Or even the
yeah,
sheriff.
the
Yeah,
Sheriff of Nottingham and Prince John are not exactly the one. Like, what's that like Disney cartoon, like the House of Villains or whatever? Like, or in fucking
sure.
that Japanese Kingdom Hearts, the Japanese video game like version of Disney, right? Like King John is not the one who's nobody's looking at him like a potential mastermind villain, right? Like
No.
he's not.
No, not at all.
No, he's not on the council. He's not. We do not grant him the rank of master.
All right,
He's not up there.
let's take a brief diversion to talk about the villains, and I will do like a quick ranking, right? The kind of because we've been through a number of these movies already, and we don't need to rank them in order or anything. But I just want to see if there's anyone that's worse in terms of
Oh,
the
like so
villains.
far, or do you mean like all
Yeah, so
throughout? Okay,
far.
so
No,
far.
just do so far. So Snow White, the evil witch queen, she's better than Prince John for sure. She's more malicious. She's more competent. She's more trickstery. She's more compelling. I think.
Yeah,
Um, well, there's a few forces of antagonism in Pinocchio. There's the fox that tricks Pinocchio to begin with, the like those trickster characters. But I suppose the ultimate like villain that isn't the whale would be the guy who runs the theme park, right? He's pretty
yeah.
brutal and terrifying. So, and the whale is better. So, all in all, I think all the villains of Pinocchio are better than Prince John and the sheriff. Dumbo. Trying to remember.
Dumbo doesn't really have a villain, does it? Like it's
No,
like the
it has
ringmaster
like the
kind of.
cruelty of yeah. Yeah. It's not that the villains are worse or more pathetic, but it doesn't have villains in the same way. Um,
Bambi.
Man and Bambi, Man is just the good guy. Obviously, he's the hero.
Yeah,
So,
he's solving an overpopulation crisis
yeah,
of white-tailed
yeah,
deer.
he literally did nothing wrong, as far as I can tell. So we'll skip him. Yeah,
We'll skip Fantasia as well. Fantasia doesn't have
the
fuck all going for her.
stepmother in
Cinderella.
Cinderella is better.
Yeah.
Yes. The Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. I don't
She's
remember her
yeah,
too well.
well, the Red Queen is kind of I think what we're looking for more from John, right? Is like she is kind
Yes.
of bumbling and sort of she's vain and bumbling and incompetent, but she also is wielding her power in a way that is legitimately terrifying and
Yes.
tyrannical and puts some real stakes on the characters, our protagonists' decisions, right?
And considering how little screen time she ultimately gets, I still think she's better for sure.
Yeah, I would say she's up
Captain Hook
there.
is better. That's an easy
Yeah,
one.
Captain Hook's better. That's an easy one. Maleficent clears the board basically.
Oh, absolutely.
The like literal Satan woman. Like, what do you?
Oh,
Come
she's
on,
great.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Um, Lady and the Tramp. Who are the villains in Lady and the
The
Tramp?
rat.
Oh, there's a rat. Well, were there villains like proper villains, or like there's just like
No, Lady and
threats?
the
There's
Tramp
the
is more.
dogs,
Yeah,
and then there's the rat. But there's no like.
Lady
Oh,
and the
there's the
Tramp is.
dog catcher, right?
There is the dog catcher, but he's not
But he's yeah.
particularly villainous because he is trying to like he does try to help.
It's like Dumbo, where they don't
Yeah,
really have clear
that one's
villain.
that one's not really a villain. That one doesn't need a villain
Cruella Deville,
really.
she's up there. She's
Cruella
great.
Deville is like yeah.
I don't remember who the villains in The Sword in the Stone are at all. Fuck that movie. We'll skip it. The Jungle Book. The tiger.
Yeah, Shere Khan, he's
He's
better.
pretty good. Yeah,
Yep.
he's better. The Aristocats. Was there a villain in the Aristocats?
Edgar.
Oh.
Also kind
I
of did
I
nothing.
like
Didn't
Prince
like
John
didn't
better than Edgar.
yeah, yeah, me too. Edgar
As far as
Edgar is the like maybe like, the most retarded of the Disney villains.
yeah,
Like
yeah, his whole plan is stupid, and he kind of goes above and beyond to kill the cats when it wasn't even necessary. Like I don't. Yeah, he sucks as far as villains go. He's worse. Okay, he's the only one that's worse. I
yeah,
think that's
well, at
so
least
far.
King John clears that, right? Or Prince John.
We're asked by WikiStacks, how come we're not on EFAP right now? Because it's only the main four hosts on right now. They told everyone else to get out, but I was on earlier this morning. If you
Yep,
want to, we talked about writing advice and what good dialogue and bad dialogue are. It was fun.
that
You
sounds
can go
great.
watch
Yeah.
that later. But now
And
we're talking
I
about
only make
Robin
extremely
Hood.
brief guest appearances on
Yes.
EFAP. So, although maybe in the future, you never know.
But yeah, he is maybe he's like second to the bottom, Prince John, and for folding the sheriff into that, Prince John and sheriff are second from the bottom in terms of Disney villains so far. Not a strong showing. They're like perfectly serviceable, but I want more. I want,
Yeah.
some more tension. I want them to be smarter.
I think
I
that
want,
they're the main thing holding this movie back from being like this movie is good. I think that the
yes.
villains are the main thing holding it back from being great. You know?
I totally agree. Because Robin Hood still has to be smart and clever by virtue of the fact that they have all the power, right? So like he still has obstacles to overcome, but it would be more satisfying if they were smarter. Like cuz I like all his like costumes and dressing up as like a woman and dressing up as like a stork and all the other and dressing up as a beggar and all the other costumes he puts on. He's a great trickster hero. I think they sort of nail that archetype pretty
Yeah.
well in this movie. And I
A
think,
better Odysseus than Matt Damon.
oh God,
Yeah.
100%. I I think one of my favorite moments in the movie is like just kind of establishing who he is as a person, right? Because he is an outlaw, but he is doing it for other people, right? Like so, like when he's running away and there's that little rabbit who's going to be left behind, and so he has to like run to go save the rabbit, and then kind of push him through the gate, and then he has to go escape on his own. That's a really nice moment. It's a really strong moment for him. There's a lot of there's very straightforward, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as a compliment, but like very straightforward, heroic things for Robin Hood to do in this movie that especially a lot of little boys are going to really like. This is a great movie to show your kids, I think. This movie's got like a really great sense of, you know, masculine heroism and gender roles and like the rightly ordered society and all that sort of stuff that I think is just really good for kids. This is a strong movie. It's good. It could be better. It could be better, especially in the villain department, but it's good. There's a lot of fun gags too. It's funny.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pretty funny movie. Kids are gonna think this movie's really funny. I certainly thought it was funny when I was a kid. I laughed a lot at this movie. There's little funny moments like when Sir Hiss is like forced into the barrel of ale and he's like, "But I don't drink." You know, things like that. It's just fun little gags all throughout there. And like really strong kind of visual comedy and visual character choices. Like I like that Prince John's crown doesn't fit him. It's too big for him.
That's a
You
great little
know.
bit of symbolism, right? Jonathan
Yeah,
Pageau
great.
would say that's
Just say, "Good job. You
yeah,
did
that's
it.
yeah.
You did symbolism." No, I mean it's all this stuff. It's like it's straightforward and effective. You know what I mean? Not not anything that it's going to like it's not reinventing any wheels, but it's just very effective. It's using, he's got like his little assistant is a snake, you know what I mean, who's kind of
Yeah.
like all the snake symbolism is kind of folded into him. He's the only one who seems to be like relatively smart. But even then, as far as villains go, there are so many moments where Sir Hiss like has the opportunity to say something to tell Prince John that Robin Hood is there, and he just kind of doesn't. He kind of like stands there dumbfounded, and it's like we could make him more competent. That
Yeah.
would be interesting. Because if he was more competent, but no one respected him, that would be an interesting kind of choice to make. But even then, he has some opportunities to be smarter than he is. Not
Yeah.
as smart, as
And
competent as I would like him to
like I
be.
think that I've been trying to like formulate a little bit what I think, like how I feel about, what this movie's accomplishing, and what it's like, what it's not, right? And I think one of the issues that I have is that with that, by making Prince John so like bumbling and silly, and even the Sheriff of Nottingham, even though he is, like he's very good at there's several scenes where he tries to find, extra money to squeeze out of the people, and he's really really good at doing that and at knowing the character of the malingerers who are trying to avoid paying their
Yeah,
taxes, right? I think that's interesting, but the Robin Hood story overall is such a fascinatingly English thing, right? Like
yeah,
it's and some of that certainly trickled down to us Americans through, that common heritage,
sure.
right? I think that the idea of the resistance, because it's resistance to illegitimate power, not to
Yes.
order itself, like we talked about earlier, right? Like this is not a socialist fantasy of just giving the poor, all the money and like doing away with kings, right? It's more
Yeah.
about when when the institutions exploit the common
When they
people.
become corrupt, when they
Yeah, and they
become
abuse the
tyrannical.
rights of the common people, right? There's like a Magna
Yeah.
Carta-esque thing going on there. And I just feel like I don't know, I feel like this is such an important and unique bit of folklore to that
One
part
of
of
the most
Western, yeah,
important, I agree.
yeah, probably, especially for Americans, right? Like if you if you really think about it, right, the whole American Revolution is kind of a Robin Hood story,
A little
on
bit.
some
Yeah,
level,
there's
right? Like there's more to it than that, obviously,
sure,
but
of
like
course.
there is like it is an incredibly important piece of that cultural history, and I just kind
There's a
of
lot of
wish.
cultural sorry, go ahead. You were
I was
saying?
just kind of wish this movie was like a little better than good.
Yeah. I I know
For
what you
how
mean bec
outsized the influence of this story has been. You know,
I totally agree. I want to like this movie more than I do. I still like it. There's a lot of great cultural specificity here, with the friar and the poor box and everyone like giving to charity and all that sort of stuff. Like I like when, because they're in their abbey, whatever, and this is at the point in the story when Prince John has it basically out of spite increased the taxes like tenfold or whatever on all the townspeople just to squeeze them dry because he's trying to get Robin Hood to come back so he can capture him, right? That's all he really wants. He wants to like capture and kill Robin Hood, and so he's punishing everyone in the town to sort of like bring Robin Hood out, right? He's just squeezing them dry. David L. asks if there was a reason given for why he raises taxes. That's the only reason. It's really just to be cruel and to sort of like get Robin Hood out of hiding, right?
yeah,
And so he does that, and people who cannot pay the taxes are being thrown in prison. So like almost everyone in town is in the dungeons, right? And the town's basically empty. It's rainy, it's dreary, and we see Friar Tuck and the little mice that live with him in the abbey. The mouse is playing the organ. It's really nice touch. It's fun. But they're talking about like they're ringing the bell, right? But no one's coming to church because everyone's in prison. And one of the little mice says to Friar Tuck, oh, well, like no one's gonna show up. Why are we ringing the bell? And he basically talks about how like, well, it's important to keep hope alive, right? And so we're gonna ring the bell, and we're gonna be here in case anyone shows up, and we're gonna play the music. We're going to because it's important to keep like everything about it kind of culturally feels very specific and authentic, to like kind of the values and the culture of the people. Like those moments especially. Some other stuff, it's a little Americanized in a way that sort of like maybe it detracts a little bit from the sort of cultural authenticity of the sort of medieval English setting. But in general, I think they do a good job of having it feel in terms of the values very culturally authentic and specific. And so it's nice. And but to your point, like Robin Hood should be great, not
yeah.
just good, I think. Because it's that good of a story. It's that important of a story. It stood the test of time
There's so
for a
much
very good
depth and
reason.
like
Yeah.
interesting symbolism and just like cultural pride to be taken in this
Oh
story.
yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
and yeah,
And you can take pride in this movie for sure. And like this is a good movie to show your kids, and it's a good movie to like remember for future generations. But you just wish it was that much stronger. You wish it
yeah,
was as good as Sleeping Beauty or as good as Cinderella or Pinocchio because it has the potential to be, you know? And I think maybe if it was made while Walt Disney was still alive, it might have been. Maybe.
yeah, maybe,
He had a couple duds during his life, but he was really firing on all cylinders like few ever had. So I
yeah.
I I, I do kind of have faith in his ability to have made this even better if he was still around. But even without
Either
him.
either it gets made in like Disney's lifetime or it waits until the Renaissance, right? Like
Yeah,
either one of those two things. When they had that creative team that was putting out Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid and Lion King and Hunchback of Notre. God, can you imagine can you imagine this with the villain from Hunchback of Notre Dame though? Like,
yeah,
you
he
know,
was really menacing and competent and intelligent, but evil.
yeah.
That
I like
would be pretty
that
brutal.
would be pretty that would just give it a whole other level of just yeah,
Yeah.
I think
It's light and fun, but I think it could have stood to be a little more weighty, just a little
just
more
a bit.
serious, because
Yeah.
kids can handle it. It's not like we're on the verge of things that kids can't handle in this movie. You know what I mean? Georges Rex says the heroes support the Crusades and only the villain calls it crazy. That's good. Exactly.
Exactly.
There are things this movie definitely gets
That's
right.
right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a little bit of it's gonna get even more meta in the next movie we talk about, but there's a little bit of the meta talking to the camera thing because we're being told the story from the minstrel, the rooster, voiced by Roger Miller, and he's sort of playing his lute. It's just a guitar in the audio, but he's playing his lute. And he's kind of talking to the audience and singing a song. And I wish I could. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. You keep talking about it. Like the opening lines he says are very funny.
But keep um
I'm gonna find it. You just keep talking.
okay. Yeah. Um
Okay,
yeah,
so he
all right,
says,
there you go.
there's been a heap of legends and tall tales about Robin Hood, all different too. Well, we folks in the animal kingdom have our own version. It's the story of what really happened in Sherwood Forest. He says, oh, coincidentally, I'm Alan Adale, a minstrel. That's an early day folk singer. My job is to tell it like it is, or was, or whatever.
Yeah, I like that. The kind of like
Or whatever is really funny.
yeah, or
Yeah.
whatever. Play like yeah, I that's an interesting choice, right? Cuz like it's not like we're leveraging that like a lot, like the idea that this is an animal like an animal's interpretation of what the story of Robin
Yeah,
Hood
it's we
means,
we
right?
haven't made them animalistic very much, all things considered.
No, it's clearly it's like no, we just did it because
The different animals
animals are
do
cute,
kind of represent different personalities and different types, right? You know what I
sort
mean?
of. Yeah,
I mean, broadly speaking, like obviously the fact that Prince John is a lion, obviously he's the brother of Richard the Lionheart, right? But like he's not the right kind of lion, right? And so something's wrong there. But he's like Robin Hood as a fox because he's clever and a bit mischievous and a bit chaotic, a bit trickstery, stuff like that. Like, I think it works. I think the choices to make which characters which animals are strong, but like you said, we're not really leveraging the fact that they're animals too much. Doesn't really they could just be people.
yeah, exactly.
So if you were made today, he would just be a rapper. Yes, he'd be voiced by Travis Scott, and he'd say, "A fox, a lion,
A
a
fox, a
trick."
lion, a trick, a king, a crusade.
Oh God. Oh Lord in heaven. That's God, I hate that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
Actively, you know.
fun fact thing I noticed when we were watching the movie last night. So the opening song that Mr. Rooster, the minstrel, sings, Alan Adale, he's called. He's like the Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest song. There's a part where he hums that. But Hugh, are you familiar with the hamster dance?
Yes, I am very yeah. I know. I noticed the whistle that he does
Yeah,
is the hamster dance. Yeah,
yeah.
is that like no
Da-dee-da-dee-do-do.
no? Yeah, but
Dee-da-dee-dee-do.
he does it in.
Biddy-biddy-biddy-biddy.
It
Yeah.
sounds like the Alvin and the Chipmunks to this, right?
Yeah,
Is that
they
the like
sped it
the
up, yeah.
is that the origin of the hamster dance?
Yeah, it is. They sampled it from this movie.
Oh my god.
Yeah. A little fun fact for you, if you haven't heard that in a long time, or you're too young to know what the hell we're talking about. The hamster dance. It's an old, what would you call that? Like a Euro dance track, whatever you.
Euro trash pop.
Hey man, that's a good song. It's unironically really catchy. It's strong. Hamster dance. But it's a sped up sampled version of The roosters singing in the beginning of
I
this
just,
movie.
you know,
Pretty fun.
sometimes I'll listen to, you know, mid 2000s or early 2000s pop music like that. You know, like, or not even pop music, like, you know, electronic music like that, and just imagine a bunch of Europeans in clubs back in the day, like dancing to that dancing to that shit.
Came out in the year 2000,
Jesus.
starting off the new millennia strong. Unironically, it's a very catchy tune. I like it a lot.
It's because it's Roger Miller.
Yeah. Man, he does such a good job in this movie. I almost wish there was more of him, but it's really strong.
Yeah, I kind of wish he was more active in it as well, right? Like
Yeah,
because he sort of shows up every now, like he'll show up in the background every now and then, and like, you know, be shown to be a character who is in and involved in the story, but it you know, few and far between. Like, so he's in the big dance scene after they get, you know, they rescue Maid Marian
yeah.
and they bring her back, and
He's
then
like the town, he's the minstrel guy, and so he's singing when they're all drinking and celebrating and carrying on. He's there. He's playing music and everything. He pops in like basically at the beginning and end of every act of the movie, basically to sort of talk through what's going on. But he doesn't show up all that much, all things considered. Though I do like the part where he's in the prison as well. You know, he's talking about how everyone's been thrown in jail, and he's like, "Yep, that's me." I bet you're wondering how I got here. But
yeah,
I could stand to get even more of him just because he's
yeah.
that good.
I think that would be, yeah, that'd be nice. There's a few things that we could do to make this, you know, take this from where it is to, you know, one of the absolute all time greats that Disney is putting out. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
A quick note on Robin's character design because I thought it was interesting, because so many classic Disney protagonists have, like, primary colors. Like, that's sort of in the color theory of Disney's body of work, usually the heroes are in, like, red, blue, and yellow or gold, right? And
yeah,
villains tend to have more green, orange, purple, that sort of stuff. Interestingly, and I think it works symbolically, Robin Hood, obviously, he's a fox, so he's orange, but he wears, like, a green, you know,
green, yeah,
tunic.
green tunic and like a mustard yellow cap with a
Hat
red
with, like, a
feather.
red
Yeah,
hat. So it's like he has some of the more of the secondary colors except for, like, his hat, you know what I mean? There's, like, the feather in his hat is kind of like, I don't know, it's like a little bit of the heart of gold, if you will, kind of thing in his character. But it's interesting because the Prince John, for example, things are kind of flipped because Prince John is in these red royal robes and he's got the gold crown. He's got like a blue undershirt in a lot of the scenes. So he's wearing the traditional, like, regal hero colors, but everything's wrong. And so
yeah,
everything has to be
that is
turned right
good.
at the end. I want to find it because he's wearing a different outfit, like when they get married at the end. Trying to remember if like his colors change as well. No, it's the same colors. Never mind.
Yeah, but that is interesting. That is kind of fun,
It's
you know.
unusual, but it's also it kind of works if because he's an outlaw trickster figure. He's not the traditional hero in a way.
There are a couple people in the chat, Dave and are talking about people out in the real world asking about the Odyssey and then beginning to, or having to bite back the impulse to completely unload for, you know, a 10-minute rant. That
Yeah,
happens to me so frequently lately that it's very, very difficult. I feel your pain, guys. I do.
yeah, yeah. George Rex points out the Robin Hood classically wears green because he represents the forests and all. Yeah, but like it's just interesting in the body of Disney's work that his colors are mostly not the primary colors that Disney heroes typically have, but it kind of works because he's on the fringes. He's an outlaw, you know. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously, he represents the forest. He represents something kind of wild and
Yeah,
natural
and
and
like
all that sort
primeval
of stuff.
almost, right?
Yeah,
Like he's
exactly.
it's justice and order, you
Like the
know.
revenge of the natural order
Yeah,
against
the natural
tyranny.
order against, like, you know,
Yeah.
a man-made and man-imposed tyranny. I think there's just something really deep and fascinating about Robin Hood that I like. The story, when I hear it, it's like there's something in me that just, like, is very attracted to it, right? Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
a really, like, important cultural touchstone. Um, the
I agree.
movie benefits a lot from that as well, right? Like obviously, I cannot be the only person who's feeling this when they're watching that movie. You know?
No. And I think that's what, that's what makes it as strong as it is. But with a few tweaks here and there, this could be an all-time great movie. But otherwise, it's an easy recommend. It's a charming watch. I don't know that I'll rewatch it for years, but when I
Yeah,
do, I'll enjoy it again.
yeah,
And shall we save where we put it in the ranking for after we've talked
yeah,
about this and Winnie the Pooh?
yeah.
Okay.
Let's save that so that we can. Yeah, we. So should we move on to Winnie the Pooh?
I think we should. I think it's a good a time as any to
All
talk
right.
about the many adventures of Winifred
Yes.
the Pooper.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. I want to ask you about, or an interesting thing I want to ask you about because, like, when we were putting the list together here, right, kind of completely forgot that Winnie the Pooh was a Disney property. Um,
Hmm.
and it's like, and okay, so we went through and put a bunch of went through a list of a bunch of movies that were also theatrically released by Disney that don't make it onto the normal timeline for whatever reason, right? And
Partly, some of them are because they weren't released by Walt Disney Animation Studios. They were released by like a different
yeah,
production studio under the Disney umbrella, but they still released in theaters, like the Goofy movie,
yeah.
for
Well, we
example.
are going to watch the Goofy movie as an interesting side note, side step to
Yeah.
this project.
It
I've made an
basically,
executive decision on
yeah.
that.
I don't
But
think
what we're
anyone's going to
not
complain
going
about
to
that.
do is watch all of the Winnie the Pooh movies that released over the years, because there are
Especially in the
so
2000s.
many of them, man. It's like it's
The
kind
Tigger
of
movie, the Heffalump movie.
Piglet's big movie. All of those are like
Yes.
they're all over like they're it's huge, right? And it almost reminds me a little bit of how like it feels a little like how Marvel treats the X-Men to me. Like Winnie the Pooh is like separate from the normal Disney
Yes.
continuum. Like
Yes.
as a because I don't know that if I went and asked people like, hey, what's your favorite Disney movie? Like I don't think Winnie the Pooh is gonna be like up there for almost anybody. But if I ask
Or
like
even
what's
that
your
it's on
favorite,
the list for
yeah, that
them,
it
yeah.
would even be on the list. But if I ask you what's your favorite kids movie or what's like the most iconic kids movie, I it would probably make top five, right? Like for most people, I
Uh,
feel like it's hugely impactful. I
yeah,
you know
very
like
popular, very popular. So interestingly, I had forgotten that this was a full feature film because my memory of Winnie the Pooh was mostly, I guess I had it in my head that it was a TV show, and I think it was a TV show at some point. And after watching the film, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh from 1977, I was like, oh yeah, this works better as a TV show format because the movie is kind of a series of vignettes. Now, you told me earlier in the stream that I didn't know this ahead of time that these vignettes are assembled from a number of short films that started as early as 1966.
yes, and
Winnie the
interestingly enough, that makes this technically the last film in Disney's canon that Walt Disney had any personal involvement with, because he was directly
Yes.
involved in the Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, and he worked on the Blustery Day one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which both, were being made in the late '60s and didn't actually become part of this collection of vignettes into a feature film until 1977. Now, Dave L. asks, Pooh, Winnie, is sort of out of copyright, yes? Yes, you might have heard a couple of years ago they made that Winnie the Pooh slasher movie. That's because Winnie the Pooh, the character, originally appeared in a book in 1926, I believe was the year, and so it has entered the public domain as a character, but everything that Disney contributed to the look or story of Winnie the Pooh, that is still under copyright. So you can't depict Winnie the Pooh as having a red shirt, for example, because that is a Disney contribution. The original Winnie the Pooh didn't have a shirt, he was just a teddy bear. So yes, the stories are quite a bit older, and clearly Disney liked them and had his sights on them. Eventually, sort of started adapting the little stories from the books into shorts in the late 60s, and then finally we get this feature film that released theatrically. Now, I remembered every scene and sequence from this movie. I just don't remember if I ever saw them as a film or as like a TV show, because I know it was a TV show like at one point. And I remember watching it. So I don't remember if I've seen this as a whole complete work or not before,
Oh, I
but I had
I
seen every
watched
piece of
this
it.
so much as a kid. Like this all kind
Yeah.
of came flood. It was a little bit like Peter Pan, where I was just like, "Oh yeah, this all is coming flooding back right now." I remember everything about this movie.
Almighty Z says Pooh Bear is kind of like the Wolverine of the Hundred Acre Wood. Yeah,
Yeah, in a
I agree
way,
with that.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, if for the same reasons, like this movie was a big nostalgia trip for me because I remembered a lot of this stuff very clearly from when I was a kid. But Hugh, overall, what did you think of the many adventures of Winifred the Poopert?
This I really liked it. There was a lot of nostalgia, you know. I think it's weak on overall story, and it's not like
Great.
it would work, like you said. I think much better as a TV show than as a feature film. It's kind of struggling to piece together into a feature film, because like none of the vignettes are really like related to one another overall.
Really at all.
Um,
Not even thematically.
yeah, but I do find it very charming. The voices are all iconic. You know, I kind of I did listen to the audiobook of the original in preparation for this, and it was really off-putting hearing anybody else do the voice of Pooh or Piglet
Yes.
or
Yes.
Tigger for that matter. Like
At
it's
one point, maybe 10 years ago, I tried to watch Winnie the Pooh because I'm like, oh, I saw Winnie the Pooh on Disney Plus or whatever it was, or whatever streaming service, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen that in a long time, and it was the 2011
oh
movie.
that is on the list. That's
Oh,
we're
good lord.
yeah.
I might object to even watching that because I started watching it and I'm like, wait, these are not the right voices. And I had to turn it off. I couldn't watch it. As soon as any of the characters started talking, I'm like, that's not what they're supposed to sound like. I couldn't do it as an adult. I was just like, nope,
Yeah.
not watching that. So yeah, the voices are very, I think, important to the success of this movie and these short films and what came after that before they eventually recast the voices. I really like it. I it's going to be low on my overall list
Yeah.
because of the story. Even I would say the vignettes themselves don't have the strongest self-contained narrative like choices. Um they're okay. Like
Well, they're
it's
very
fun.
storybook. They're very like children's like playtime kind of things, right? Like it's the kind of stuff that a very young boy would come up with, you know, when playing by themselves, you know, with their stuffed animals. Yeah, on a rainy day kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Like that there's a loosely connected logic to some of it. You know, like in the first one, Pooh decides to try to rob some bees, and so he does blackface because that's what you do.
As you do. Yeah. To
um,
fool the bees into thinking that he's a stormy rain cloud. Um, I think what holds this movie back is not really that it's a series of vignettes, which is not my favorite kind of movie in general, but if all the vignettes kind of had, not that I need them to be preachy by any means, but if they had any sort of moral lesson in them at all, I might like them more. As such, they're just kind of like little farces, which is fine. I like it. I
I
enjoyed
think
this
you can
movie.
find some like some moral, you know, some kind of
Listen,
moral stuff in there, right?
a
Like,
little bit,
isn't
if you
there like a
dig
whole
for
book called The Tao of Pooh, where like somebody went through and like explored like the idea of like effortless existence?
Buddhism.
Yeah, yeah, Chinese Buddhism or something with like in this. I think you can find stuff
Um,
in there. Um,
I don't know about that. I think you can. Okay, for example, one of the stories involves Winnie the Pooh coming over to Rabbit's house, being a bit greedy, eating too much of his honey, and then being too fat to get out of Rabbit's house. And so you can watch that one and be like, yeah, you shouldn't
That's
eat
so
so you
fucking funny,
shouldn't be
dude.
gluttonous and you shouldn't be too fat. But then like eventually he just gets stuck in there and has to wait until he's skinny enough to be pushed through, which is funny. I like it. But like when eventually he's pushed through, he's kind of launched. He's yoinked out of there, launched through the air, and ends up with his head in a tree where all the bees are making more honey, and then he just goes right back to eating honey. And it's funny. It's a fun little gag, but it's like there's really not much to these as stories, I guess, is my big issue. Like they're fun and they're charming. The Blustery Day is I don't know. There's just not much meat on the bones as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
There's
no,
not much
I
to
would
them.
agree. I don't think that I don't think there's a lot to it's more just a sort of delightful little thing for to keep.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
And
like a
listen,
daydream.
Pooh,
It's like a little
yeah,
play
it
daydream.
is funny. It works as a comedy. I think Pooh is a very funny character, and I like the way he talks and the things he says. And I like the way he like when he like sits down to think, and he has to think very deliberately because he's just not very smart. And there's a lot of like the way he talks to himself in the mirror like it's another person because he fails the mirror self-reflection test. you know like there's plenty of humor and jokes that really work for me and like fun little farcical situations, and in general there's a wholesomeness to how the characters treat each other and blah blah blah, but there's
There are
not really a
so
whole
many
lot to dig
memes
into.
born out of this movie too. Like I
Yes.
did not realize exactly the depth and the breadth of what we were mining for in the meme.
like like
The
when he starts ascending in the Heffalump dream thing, like
yeah,
people use that a lot for like when they're like listening to music and it gets really good, you just kind of picture Winnie the Pooh like
or like
floating off.
it's the liberal leaving my body when my straw
Yeah.
turns mushy. You know, like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
floats off.
That sort of thing. There's a lot of
The bit where he's
meme-worthy
like
moments.
slouched down in the armchair in Rabbit's house and he's making that face, and then like people turned it upside down and put a little smile on him. So there's like, and they gave him like a
Yeah.
monocle and a top hat to be like, yes, this is for this is for the refined gentleman who
Yeah.
enjoys media. You know,
There this movie is funny, and there's funny stuff in it, and it's funny in a childlike, whimsical, like, doesn't take itself very seriously. It's just a series of larks, essentially.
yes.
And that's fine, and it's enjoyable. The music is excellent. The songs are really catchy. There's a lot to like about it, and like fun vocal performances. I thought Eeyore would play a bigger role in this because I had a, you know, distinct memory of like some plots and stuff having to do with
Are you
Eeyore that
talking
just
about his
weren't in this.
birthday, like the Eeyore's birthday one?
Yes.
Yeah, that
What's
happens
that
in
from?
that happens in the next one. Hold on, let me, because
Okay.
I looked at it because I remembered that too, right? Where Piglet brings him a popped balloon, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so
the
like,
fuck is this? I googled Eeyore's birthday, and the first thing that popped up is Eeyore's birthday party is a free annual day-long festival held every last Saturday in Austin, Texas.
that is some shit Austin would do.
And it's like the pictures of it are like a bunch of white guys with dreads and no shirts and Rasta colored things, soaped up and acting as if they are transcending their mortal coils by listening to one of their shirtless brethren play a fucking bongo drum. This looks, god damn it,
It's
hippies.
like hell on earth.
Yeah, what hippies are a scourge.
But anyway, um, I was surprised at how late in the story Piglet comes into this, but I guess some of the stories, little things that happened in them made me like kind of not ruined them for me, but like, okay, for example, they have that whole the blustery day, and like, Owl loses his house because the tree comes crashing to the ground, and then Eeyore is looking for a house for Piglet, and then Eeyore is basically like, oh, here's a good house for Owl, and it's Piglet's house, and everyone's like, oh, sweet, a great new house for Owl, and Piglet's like too bumbling and shy to say like, wait a minute, that's my house. But then the resolution isn't that he needs to learn to stand up for himself. It's like, oh, you should just give Owl your house and then you can come live with me, Piglet. And so he goes to live with Pooh. And I'm like, I don't know about that one. You know? It's just like that's
Oh,
not where
interesting.
I would have gone with it in
Okay,
terms
so
of like,
the Winnie the Pooh and the Day for Eeyore short was released limitedly theatrically, and then expanded to a wide release as part of a double feature with the reissue of The Sword and the Stone. It didn't. It
oh,
see.
weird.
Yeah, Raytheon 6 says it was a DVD extra, not a sequel event. So yeah, technically it was just an extra. If you live in Australia, Raytheon, then you definitely didn't see it with The Sword and the Stone because it didn't accompany that movie in Australia for some reason. But then it was released on home video in 1984. So yeah, it was that they went back to doing shorts for a while with Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
What did you think of the moment where Piglet just decides that he's going to give Owl his
Oh, bro,
house and
squatters' rights are bullshit. And Piglet, you should get a lawyer. Lawyer up. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, this
Yeah,
is
that was one of
Eeyore
like a
is
couple.
retarded and can't spell. Like
Yeah.
you that it does not give Owl any
I thought it was going to be
more
about him
significant.
being like so timid that he can't stand up for himself and he has to learn to do that. But it wasn't. It was just like, I'll just do the kind thing and give Owl my house that's been in my family for generations. They explicitly say that when they
Yeah, because
introduce
his name
Piglet.
was Trespassers William, because that's funny.
Yeah, it's a good
There's a lot of
joke.
like good little wry little jokes like that, right? Like
Yes.
Trespassers will be also like it very English to name your house something. You name your
Yes.
house like an estate or whatever. I like that. I think that's fun. Yeah, Owl. Owl
But they don't
is a
know that
squatter.
it's Piglet's house, but Piglet just doesn't say anything, and then he decides to just let Owl have it, and then Pooh's like, "Well, then you can come live with me," and it's like, "Yay, we did it! Wasn't that nice?" And it's like,
How
that's
heroic of you, Piglet, to give up your house to an intellectual who has
an
nothing to
owl who
offer.
would. And if he just said, "This is my house," actually, they all would have been like, "Oh, never mind. We'll just keep looking for
Well, they
another
all
one."
know. They all
Like,
know it's his house. Like nobody else speaks up for him either, right? They're
wait, I
all
thought they
aware.
didn't know.
No,
I thought they didn't
Eeyore's
know.
the only one who doesn't know. Eeyore and Owl don't know, but Rabbit and Kanga and all of them are like, oh, but
So why don't they say
well,
anything?
I don't know, dude, because they're English
Okay,
and they're
that's
too
my least.
polite to.
That is my least favorite part of the movie. That doesn't make any sense, and I don't like the resolution there. I don't even know what they're trying to say with that. Other like second least favorite part of the movie is the Heffalump song, which is just a reheated leftovers of the
Dumbo
Pink
Pink
Elephants
Elephants
on
on Parade.
Parade, which
Yep.
is Pink Elephants on Parade is more remarkable because it's such a strange choice to put in Dumbo in the first place, much less in like the 40s when that came out. Like that is a truly surreal
Yeah,
sequence.
this is the
And
1970s. Everybody is tripping acid by this point. So you're
they just
yeah.
clearly liked that bit of Dumbo and they're like, what if we did that with Winnie the Pooh? And it's not as effective. It feels a bit more try hard surreal as opposed to the original one, which was just the most baffling thing to ever appear in a kids movie at the time. You know, this felt a bit like, oh, like that, but worse.
Yeah.
It's
I,
fine. It's
I
a catchy
did
song.
I did like the build up to it because it shows Pooh being a real one. He's strapped to the nines, ready to defend his personal property from
Yes.
the mysterious heffalumps that are
Trying to steal
flooding across
honey.
the border of the Hundred Acre
Yeah.
Wood trying to steal his stuff. I certainly
Hey, stuff.
approved of that. Um, I also approved of Tigger being the good kind of immigrant. the one who the one who's like, yeah, no, that's not my thing. I'm just here to bounce, man. I'm just here to have fun and to integrate and become
I love the 100 Acre
yeah,
Wood.
I love the Hundred Acre Wood and I'm going to become one of you.
Matthew Leach says, "Will you be covering the other Winnie the Pooh movies?" Probably not, since as you mentioned, there's like 14 of them.
Yeah, I doubt we're gonna go. I don't want to do
I don't
Heffalump
really
movie,
intend
Tigger
to.
movie, Piglet movie. The only one that I think is on like the only one that's on the list is the one from 2011. That's sort of like I guess a reboot or like I don't know I don't
I
know
don't
what
even
the fuck
know.
it is.
We'll decide later, but
But
I'm
it was
inclined
a
to
2D. It
say
was a big, like a like a large scale 2D animated feature release. So that one
maybe. We'll talk about it.
probably we'll probably double feature it or maybe even triple feature it if we just like have very little to say. Um, we'll see. That one's the most likely of the other Winnie the Pooh stories to make it. But yeah, I'm not
But
doing any of
okay.
the others. We're also not going to do the Recess movie. We're not going to do the Doug movie, and we're not going to do any of the other like Disney TV shows that got turned into movies and then released theatrically. I've put my foot down. I don't want to watch any of them. There's enough
Fair
on
enough.
this list already.
Yeah.
I don't want to drag it out any further than I have to.
So there's a lot of great music in this movie. I do like the Heffalump. Like that song is pretty good. I like a lot of the songs just in general. So it's very charming in that regard. I think maybe the most charming thing about the movie, other than like the jokes and the character like performances of like the voice acting, which is very charming, is I really like the animation style of this movie. I like the watercolor backgrounds, feels very much like a storybook, and I like the meta, like we're inside of a storybook where sometimes scenes are taking place where like only the objects that are important are even there and they kind of like blur off into white
Yeah,
nothingness. Like that's a really interesting visual style. And I like when, like, for example, in the blustery day when the wind is blowing the letters around the page, all that kind of stuff, Pooh like jumping from page to page, talking with the narrator about like, oh, like it's like time to go to the next chapter. And Winnie the Pooh's like, am I gonna be in this one? And it's like, no, this one's mostly about Tigger. And he's like, oh, well, can we just stay here? And he's like, well, you are gonna be in it. He's like, all right, what am I gonna be doing? And then the narrator goes on to tell it. Like kind of like the back and forth with the narrator, that sort of meta stuff kind of works for me in this. I find
yeah,
it charming. It's engaging and it's not doing anything cringe or embarrassing. It's just like having a little bit of fun. I like the Winnie the Pooh because he's kind of like, airheaded, and he's like a little like kind of stupid. He can have some like funny back and forths with the narrator where like he doesn't really know what's going on and the narrator has to tell him what's happening and things like that.
yeah. Or
There's a
like
lot of
his
Go ahead.
dumbass like having conversations with himself in the mirror because he's
Yeah.
they're little good little gags, right? Where he's like
Yeah,
he
there's good
talks to
gags.
his reflection and he says, "You go that way, and I'll go this way, and we'll it's good to be on patrol with another another gentleman, kind of thing." I like what it's doing overall. I think it's like a fun, brief little thing. It's not particularly rich, or
No,
deep.
I think of the stories of the vignettes in this movie, the stories that stick with me the most, that actually have the most to them, is the sort of like Winnie the Pooh is a kind of like gluttonous, greedy house guest, and then Odysseus returns and he stabs him to death. Um, no, but he's a greedy house guest to Rabbit, who's a bit too much of a passive aggressive. Rabbit sucks, by the
Yeah,
way.
Rabbit
He's
is
very
by like
passive
Rabbit
aggressive.
is like such a dick, dude.
Yeah, Rabbit sucks, and we'll talk more about him in the next story. But in this story, he's kind of too passive to tell Pooh that he doesn't want him over for lunch eating all his honey. So he just kind of sits back and lets Winnie the Pooh, who is kind of too airheaded to realize that he's being greedy and gluttonous. So he just eats all of his honey and gets so fat that he can't fit through the door. And then he has to pay the price for it because he's literally stuck there for days and can't have anything to eat until he like slims down again and they can eventually pull him out. So it's like a little, you could kind of read in like, a sort of warning against overeating and gluttony and all that sort of stuff and greediness, whatever. It's simple, it's a lark, it's kind of farcical, but it's funny. So that kind of sticks in, at least that has the structure of a story. The other one that has, I think, the structure of a story and maybe has the most to say as a sort of moral for kids is the one where Rabbit is annoyed at Tigger because Tigger is just so rambunctious that he kind of unintentionally destroys Rabbit's garden. And then Rabbit, because he's a passive aggressive little shit, decides that instead of just like confronting Tigger or asking him not to do that anymore or anything. He holds a meeting with everyone else in the 100 Acre Woods, and he's like, "We need to ban him from bouncing."
Somebody get
And
these Tiggers out of here is
exactly,
Rabbit's exact words, essentially.
we need
Kick
to
that
ban.
Tigger off the plane.
We need we need to get him to stop bouncing. And everyone else is like, I don't know. He seems to like bouncing. Bouncing's kind of his thing. And Rabbit's like, no, he does the sort of like Karen thing of like, we need to outlaw bouncing. And they're like, Rabbit, what are you talking about? And so Rabbit hatches another rather devious kind of shithead plan where it's also very passive aggressive. It's like, oh, what if we got Tigger lost in the woods on purpose so that we'll never have to see him again? Like, yo, or you could just confront him about what he
You could
doesn't
just
even
say like, "Hey,
realize he
bro,
did.
stop bouncing through my garden." You could just do
Not
that.
cool.
Not cool. Hey, like, just
It
I would
hurts my
appreciate.
feelings when you destroy
So
my
okay,
garden.
real quick, because like Georgia says, Rabbit feels like the only adult surrounded by children. I would agree with that if Rabbit would just like say what he meant at any point. He's like characteristically way too English in that he's so accommodating that he will literally let Pooh eat him out of house and home before he like before he manages to say anything about how like it's putting him out, right? He doesn't want to appear as like uncourteous, so much to the point the self-detriment like that's where I draw, like he's just a passive aggressive little shit who's too nervous and afraid to say what he wants and what he means.
Yeah, and so in a way, he does feel like if they're all, kind of children in different ways, he feels like he's older than them, but he's still very immature, and neurotic and passive aggressive. So he concocts this whole plan to like get rid of Tigger by purposefully getting him lost. And like it ultimately doesn't work. And like so that one is kind of like a lesson for there you go. I see the meme now on screen. Um, it's kind of like Rabbit does have to learn his lesson about how it was wrong to do that. That's like the most we get in terms of like an actual story with like a moral lesson in it, which is probably why it sticks out the most for me. But that one's like kind of a lesson for Rabbit who needs to like not try and well, to like get someone lost in the woods just because you can't confront them over like a minor like problem you have between you. You know what I mean? His bouncing is incompatible with our culture.
That is kind of
Figured
his pitch, though. Like
yeah,
that is kind of his pitch at the little meeting that he calls with everybody else. Who's like, he's kind of taking advantage of the fact that everybody else is too stupid to really like speak up.
understand what
Like
he's doing.
now that's the scene where Pooh is like practically passing out in the armchair, right? Is when
Yeah,
is
he's not paying attention.
Pooh has no clue what's going on. Pooh's like zened the fuck out. He's about to fall asleep. Drop Tigger off at 3 a.m. on Skid Row.
It's basically his plan.
Yeah, essentially. He's like, yeah, why don't we just like. The other thing, okay, so I like Tigger. I love Tigger, actually. I think I've always kind of identified with the energetic sort of,
Yeah.
bounciness of Tigger, right? I don't get why Tigger is the one who is so into bouncing when like there are literal kangaroos in this story
And rabbits.
and rabbits. Like
Yeah.
they all bounce, bro. Like
No, but he bounces, which is unusual for a tiger. So his tail is like a spring for reasons.
their tops are made out of rubber, their bottoms are made out of springs. I love the Tigger song too, by the way. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's very catchy,
like
and he's one of a
like
kind.
I'm the only one is like the like it's like this whole song about how great we are as a species, and also I'm the only one. Like there's an exceptionalism. There's a message about American exceptionalism in there somewhere. Speaking of speaking of American representation, I do love the fact that Pooh, when he gets stuck in Rabbit's front door, he's basically just like, the doors aren't big enough. That's pretty fucking American, bro. Not only
Yeah,
does he
that's the
like stay
problem.
strapped,
You need
like
to accommodate my fatness.
yeah.
There need to be mobility scooters.
Put mobility scooters at Walmart so I can load up the honey. Like, yeah, Pooh is American. like through and through, and I approve of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead. Because I just
So
don't know if there's like there's not all that much you really
well, okay, so basically, like, there's one later where I think, maybe this is a blustery day where at the end, like, they rescue Piglet and Pooh, and then Christopher Robin thinks that Pooh was trying to rescue Piglet, and but Pooh's just so oblivious that they're like, "Pooh, you're a hero," and he's like, "I am? Oh, I guess I am. Okay, sure." Like, there's funny stuff. It's farcical. It's a lark. It's silly. It's frivolous, like the Aristocats in a way. I do find a lot of it quite charming. I think the sort of meta, like, inside of a storybook art style and some of the humor with the narrator is pretty charming. I think the voice acting performances are really strong. I kind of like the idea. You have to read into it because it's not really there in the story so much, but it's basically like the different aspects of Christopher Robin are manifest in these different characters, right?
Oh, interesting.
Like the
Dave
different
Dave points out that they are kind of playing against type at the very least. Like Tigger and Pooh and Piglet are in a way, right? Like,
is
well,
Pooh playing
are bear
against type?
are wait, hold on. Are bears generally
They're
considered
not
intelligent?
stupid. Yeah, they're pretty smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
They're not the smartest animals, but they're not stupid. So, yeah, yeah.
I guess
I don't
yeah.
know that
I
they're
see that. I don't know if like yeah. I guess because it does sort of feel like something that like a child made up. Like,
yeah,
and I think that like, it's like, oh yeah, no, this is my new stuffed tiger, and his name is Tigger, and he
he
likes to
bounces, so
bounce,
he bounced, yeah. Yeah,
right?
it's what a child would make up, and then as a result, you kinda get the different aspects and the different, like, moods that children might fly between at any given moment in all the different animals, like Eeyore being the sort of melancholy, depressed one, the negative one, and, like, Winnie the Pooh is very sort of zen in a way, like, he's unflappable in many respects. There's a couple scenes where he's scared, but, like, in general, he's kind of easygoing and carefree and just likes to eat, and then there's some neuroticism in there, and then there's a general sort of youthful exuberance, ADHD kind of hyperactivity, you know, all the different moods that a young boy might have kind of find their manifest in all these different creatures, and we have the little stories where they interact with each other, and it's something like a psychodrama for a young boy, you know what I mean? But it's all just kind of like fun playing with animals, playing with toys,
Yeah,
kind of energy, which is all right,
yeah.
but
Raytheon
none of
is
the
pointing out
stories.
too, right? That like, and you do get. I didn't read. I only read the first one, so Tigger's not even introduced in the first one. So I don't know if he goes into this in the book where he introduces Tigger, but he does make it pretty explicit. The original author that this is he based this all on watching his son play with his animals, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of with his stuffed toy.
So
So
it has some of the loose storytelling, like there's some narrative here that like a child would come up with. It's just not very refined. It's not honed into something like a Robin Hood, which has a much more
yeah,
deep and strong narrative to it. This is a bit more like a kid's just sort of playing around. And it's fine and it's charming, but it's not really going to stick with you all that much. It's just like it's a fun, goofy time, but you're not going to remember it. You're not going to not going to stick with you your whole life. Certain images, certain jokes, certain gags might stick with you, but none of the stories are really going to stick with you.
yeah. That's
Like
like
I like the gopher, as the sort of independent contractor who comes along who kind of refuses to give a quote of how much it's going to
yeah. It's
cost.
the same gopher from Lady and the Tramp though, or
Yeah.
the same beaver from Lady and the Tramp, right? Like
Yeah,
yeah,
but I mean, it's still charming. It's still
yeah.
funny. I like him as like the sort of independent contractor type. It's like it's goofy. There's a lot of fun, goofy stuff to do, but you know, it's just a bit weightless
Dave,
in a
that's
way.
pretty fun, pretty funny comparison. The story is a child smashing his action figures together, so basically it's Dave Filoni.
It's better when children are smashing their
Yeah,
action figures than when adults are doing it. I
yeah.
think that is one is way more embarrassing than the other.
Winnie the Pooh survived Order 66, but like I could
Yeah,
believe Winnie the
true.
Pooh would survive Order 66. You know, like
Yeah.
if he was part of the
If
Jedi
he was a
Temple,
Jedi and he was supposed to be doing something, but he was going off to get alien honey instead, and so
he
that's
does
why he
kind of
survived.
have like, dude, like a Winnie the Pooh type Jedi character. Actually, so like I do get right, like on some level, I do get the desire to make these characters like deeper than they are, right? Like the desire to look into the Taoism in Winnie the Pooh. Like there is something I like I don't know what it is that is so appealing about that, right? But like there is something about the idea that like Winnie the Pooh, by virtue of being kind of brainless, which they say like multiple times he's a bear of very little brain, right? But like by virtue of being kind of brainless, just sort of manages to succeed at life because he doesn't really have like everything is a surprise, everything's kind of a victory because he can
On with
spin,
the
you know.
flow. He
Yeah,
doesn't resist reality in a lot of ways. He's easygoing and he's likable and he's charming, and that just sort of carries him along through life. He's Forrest Gump, basically.
yeah, yeah. I can understand like he's Forrest Gump, but like
But fat.
without the sex drive, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
he's
yeah.
just fat.
I can
Yeah.
understand the appeal of that, right? So like I like if we had a
He's
Star Wars
Buddha-esque
movie,
in a
yeah,
way.
he is a little Buddha-esque actually. That's kind of funny. Like if we had a Star Wars movie that was basically just a Winnie the Pooh Jedi, you know, doing like not related to anything else, right? We don't have to tie it into any other shit. He's just out there fucking around doing his thing. I think I would legitimately love that. I think that would be pretty incredible to watch.
You know, I'll need some more convincing, but I'm not gonna rule it out.
Like a drunken master Jedi
Yeah.
thing.
Honestly,
I think
like
that would be kind
that
of cool.
that that does appeal to me.
That
Yeah,
sounds like
but
it would be better than any of the shit they're putting out right now. Am I describing Ewoks? I don't know if I'm describing Ewoks. They're not Jedi. They're, you know, they're just like a bunch of savages that somehow managed to bring like you know, that the Emperor overlooked, that managed to bring down the
yeah, they
entire
don't have the
Galactic
sort of
Empire.
easygoing nature. I mean,
Yeah, they were gonna eat Han, weren't they? Like
yeah.
they were gonna roast them alive. They probably
It's
did
funny because
eat
they're
some
like
of those
they're like
stormtroopers.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I don't blame them. But anyway, that's when the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. It's a lark. It's a pleasant time. You know, I wouldn't say it's a must watch in any real sense, but it's enjoyable. You won't regret watching it. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it's not gonna make it very high up on my list, but
I
it
almost fell asleep watching it. That's how little story there was. But otherwise, it's I'd recommend it. It has a very like soft recommend.
yeah, I'm with you on that one. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
going to be
like
pretty low on my list, but not because it's actually bad.
should we get to the lists
I
on
think we
that?
should get to the list.
All
Now
right,
seems like a great time to get to the list. The lists have been mentioned, and here we go. And we're going to talk about how these movies rank in the overall
all right.
2D animated theatrically released Disney canon.
Got two for
Um,
you. Yours is up first.
all right, I gotta wait for it to pop up because I don't remember.
I can give you the read dot. Like Sword in the Stone is Sword in the Stone is
Sword in the Stone is still my
still
least
at
favorite.
the
That is
bottom.
not
All
going to
right.
change. Okay, so let's we're gonna rank Robin Hood first or Winnie the Pooh first. Let's do.
Whatever you want to do.
I'm gonna do Winnie the Pooh first since it's fresh. It's fresh on the brain. Winnie the Pooh. Hmm. Oh, geez. Where does it go? Okay, it's below Peter Pan. I think it's probably below Song of the South because Song of the South has a better story. It's probably below Mary Poppins because Mary Poppins has a better story, even though we take some issues with certain parts of it. Um, it's above Fantasia. I'd say it's above Bambi. I found more to like about it, except that Bambi is an absolutely beautiful movie.
That's
Like
true.
aesthetically, Bambi is stunningly gorgeous. But uh, Winnie the Pooh was funnier. It's more varied. It's more charming. It's so it's above Bambi. Is it above or below Aristocats? Aristocats, obviously, it's a story about them like getting lost and trying to find their way home, meeting a bunch of friends along the way. It's all very light, it's all very frivolous, and then eventually they get home again. Um, this is a series of little comedy skits, basically, with no real through line between them. I find the music quite charming in both movies. I have more nostalgia for this one. I'm going to say this is worse than Aristocats because I don't really like vignette movies. That's my bias against vignette movies
All
coming in
right.
there. I think this is going to be lower than Aristocats. Winnie the Pooh is.
So currently ranked number 14 on the list. I probably am gonna have to drop these down again. Actually, forgot we're doing two.
That's all right.
So
Um,
below Aristocats now.
I
Yeah,
think so. I think it's below Aristocats. I'm
I
trying
mean,
not to let my like nostalgia bias me in favor of Winnie the Pooh here. I do think Aristocats has a slightly better story, even if I don't really think it's all that great in the story department.
yeah, hmm, yeah.
And so that's where I'd put it. I
Okay.
still like it. I still like it.
All right. So I'm gonna assume that I can drag Mary Poppins and Song of the South down for Robin Hood.
Oh yeah, okay. Am I gonna do Robin Hood now? Okay,
Yeah.
Robin Hood I like more than Peter Pan. I like it more than Alice in Wonderland. I like it more than Dumbo. Is it better than 101 Dalmatians? Ooh.
Damn. Yeah, that's a
I like, God, that's tricky because the core story of Robin Hood is doing all the heavy lifting here. Because that is just such a good story, and
yeah,
this is an okay execution of it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Okay to good.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Fuck. Sorry, I'll watch my language. We're talking about kids' movies. Robin Hood. I think I would. Jeez. Okay, so 101 Dalmatians. Obviously, they get kidnapped, and like Pongo, he's got to go. Like they have to go rescue their kids. So it's rather straightforward. There's not a whole lot to it, but it works. You know what I mean? It's like parents got to go rescue their kids, and I like Pongo. Pongo's a great character. He's a real one. And I like all the stuff with the dogs and their owners, and Cruella de Vil's a pretty iconic villain. The music, I think, is probably stronger in Robin Hood overall. Because I
Yeah,
like the Cruella de Vil song, but I don't really remember any of the other songs being
there aren't
especially
really all that many
strong.
other songs.
No. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
The King John, the phony King of England, is pretty great.
God, I I like it more than 101 Dalmatians. Do I like it more than Jungle Book? God, this is tough.
This is where this is really where it starts to get difficult.
I like the story of Robin Hood a lot, and I think I like the story of Robin Hood more than Jungle Book, but it is certainly not better than Lady and the Tramp. I'm going to, for now, hopefully it's not just recency bias, I'm going to put Robin Hood above Jungle Book,
Number
and that's where it's gonna.
6. Damn. Yeah, that is a little higher than I expected, but I understand the reasoning. Honestly, I'm with you on that. I think. Uh,
It's suffering in the villain department. We talked about that. It's suffering a little bit in the animation department, but the core story is really strong. It's a really nice story of heroism, and I find the characters like likable, and you want to root for them. And I like what they model in terms of like virtue for children and all that sort of stuff. And it's a really satisfying victory, and it ends with a wedding. It's got a lot of great like fairy tale, folk tale, mythological storytelling tropes in it. Is it the best executed? No, but Jungle Book has a good story too. But I just find Robin Hood's straightforward story of heroism slightly stronger for me. Jungle Book's a bit more
yeah.
about trying to avoid growing up and then eventually growing up. It works. I like it, but I think there's a pretty big gap between Robin Hood and the Lady and the Tramp. there's a
There's
there's a
no, there's a like a chasm between those
yeah.
two. Yeah,
I like Robin Hood a lot. I would rewatch that
yeah,
again in the near future, whereas a lot of the ones at the bottom of the list I probably won't revisit for years.
yeah. I'm yeah, all right. I'm moving mine up here.
Jungle Book easily clears Robin Hood, Georges Rex says. You know, there's a lot of things I like better about it, but the core story, I don't know that it clears. I don't know that it clears.
I
It's
am
it's
also
close.
not.
I'm struggling with it, but it's close.
I'm also not going to put I'm going to go the same order: Winnie the Pooh and then Robin Hood, because Winnie the Pooh is going to be lower on the list for me. But Sword in the Stone, Winnie the Pooh is clearing Sword in the Stone. It's clearing Fantasia. It's clearing Bambi, and I feel like I'm gonna say it's kind of clearing Aristocats too, because of the way that it sort of establishes this like incredibly iconic and really just like charming, whimsical world, right? Like
Yeah,
it is there's more staying power in the characters of Winnie the Pooh than any of the characters in Aristocats
that is
for
true.
me.
You might be convincing me a little bit actually. We'll come back to it, but I
I'll
yeah,
I'll probably put it above Mary Poppins as well. I don't know that I can justify putting it
interesting.
above Dumbo.
You're gonna put it above Mary Poppins.
I think I'm gonna, yeah. Again, because
Okay.
this is another one where I think I know that they're kind of just whimsical little farces, right? But in a way,
Yeah.
Mary Poppins is also kind of just a whimsical little farce that doesn't, yeah,
There is more of a like there's more lessons and stuff like that, and you
yeah,
know
but like the execution on the lessons is just kind of like we talked about this when we talked about it, right? Is
yeah,
like
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think that the execution on the lessons is great. Like I
yeah,
think it like
and
the
it's too
idea,
long,
yeah. I would
and it's too
rather
long.
rewatch Winnie the Pooh than Mary Poppins at this point, right? I'm gonna put Winnie the Pooh above Mary Poppins actually. And I know there's some controversy about whether or not Mary Poppins belongs on the list. Uh,
It's on the list
it's on the
because Song of the
list.
South is on the list, and Song of the South is on the list because we wanted to see what all the fuss was about.
Yeah, and
That's the only
yeah.
reason.
So you can blame the liberals for overreacting to Song of the South. That's for Mary Poppins
True.
being on the list.
So true.
That's the problem. All right, Dumbo. I am gonna. Robin Hood clears Dumbo for me. Clears Song of the South. Definitely better than Alice in Wonderland. I like it more than that. It's definitely better than Peter Pan. I think for the same reasons, I would give it the edge over 101 Dalmatians, but it's not going to clear Cinderella. So number 7 for me.
Forgot that you like Jungle Book more than Cinderella.
I
That
do,
is
man. I really like the Jungle Book. I don't think Robin Hood is better than the Jungle Book overall. I think the Jungle Book has like maybe not a stronger core story, but it has a better execution on its overall idea and like metaphor and its symbolic theme, right? Like the man
yeah,
coming through the wilderness stuff with Mowgli, and like yeah, I'm gonna put it at number 7. It's
yeah. I definitely think the Jungle Book is like more. It's more aesthetically coherent across the board. You know what I mean? But I think I'd rather watch Robin Hood for the story. I think I'm sticking with that. But yeah.
no, I get that. I think that the way the Jungle Book, like if
Oh,
Robin
I'm not
Hood had a
arguing with you.
stronger
I was just
villain.
thinking it through myself to see if I
Yeah.
was going to
I
change
think
my
if
mind.
Robin Hood had a stronger villain and a more intimidating, some more intimidating stakes for the character, it would easily clear the Jungle Book for me.
Okay.
But just the core story is just not like it's the core story is better, but the execution of its heroic symbolism is a little too whimsical and farcical compared to the way that they do it.
Yeah.
Um, so that's where it's gonna go.
There's a lot to really like about both of those
Yeah,
movies for sure. Will you I am inclined actually to give the edge to Winnie the Pooh over the Aristocats.
I
I'm
will.
thinking about it, and it's just becoming more and more clear to me that I would watch Winnie the Pooh over the Aristocats again probably 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. I
Even though I really don't think either are very strong in the story department, I think you're right that there is something just so unbelievably charming and iconic about the characters in the world of Winnie the Pooh. Even if I'm probably giving a bit of the credit to some of the other short stories I've seen. Like I don't want to, I just think, yeah, I think Winnie the Pooh's going to go above Aristocats for me. And also, I just don't want to be a cat as bad as all the people in that movie do.
Yeah. They Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that.
I think
Yeah.
that's part of it.
No, I just like the Winnie the Pooh characters are just so much more iconic. Yeah, that's it. Thomas O'Malley is iconic with like 40-year-old women who had crushes on the cat. That's basically where it where it stops.
Shere Khan and Louis Prima beat PJ. That is true. Absolutely. The antagonists in Jungle Book are better. It's kind of
Yeah.
unquestionable, I would say. The songs in the Jungle Book are amazing, but I really like the songs in Robin Hood too.
Yeah, I think both have really
Really good
excellent
music. Really good
yeah.
music.
And
Yeah,
and they're serving different purposes. Jungle
true.
Book is much more jazzy and like it kind of like it's got the beatnik
Beatnik.
jazz type.
Yeah.
Robin Hood has more of like a folk tale, folksy kind of vibe that I think fits its core story very, very well. Um,
King Louis is one of my favorite characters in any Disney movie. I wish
yeah,
he was more involved in the story because that whole sequence as its own and all the things that are happening there thematically
that
are
song is
just
so
so
good.
strong.
That song is
It's
so
been
good.
an excellent song, and I just love that character of the orangutan who wants to be a man more than anything.
We're
Like
starting to
that's
get towards like
fascinating.
I mean, we've got to make it through some rough waters here
Or at least that's what
ahead
everyone
from what
says. I
everybody
haven't
says.
seen any of those movies, so like I think basically none of the ones in gray or silver are what in the Dark Ages or whatever. I don't think I've seen a single one of
You've
those.
never seen Oliver
So
and Company?
no,
Oh shit. Okay. Well,
I
that
haven't seen I
okay.
haven't seen any of them. So I like
Wait, not who?
I'm
Wait,
sort
you
of
haven't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit yet either?
I've only seen parts of that movie actually.
Oh, dude, that's gonna be great. Okay, yeah,
That's
that
another
that
one that's
one's
on here
yeah.
because Mary Poppins is on here because Song of the South is on here.
Nobody in the
So
chat is gonna complain about Who Framed
exactly.
Roger Rabbit being on this list. Not a single one of them is gonna bitch
We were just
about it.
asked if there are any bangers in the Dark Age. Like I said, I have not seen any of them all the way through. So I'm kind of going on everyone else's
I think
assumption
I've
that
seen
these
all
movies
of these except the Black Cauldron. I've never seen that one.
I'm kind of going on everyone else's assumption that these are going to be subpar, but I don't really know that at all. I think I will almost guarantee you that I like one of these way more than most people do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and like Oliver and Company has some absolute banger songs. At least one, because Billy Joel wrote one song for it. And that song kind of slaps. But we're getting
Yeah, I've not seen all of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I've only seen parts of it. It's one of my blind spots, but we're gonna see it and talk about it on the stream, so you can look forward to that.
yeah, this is
But
gonna be
I
exciting.
think
But
that
yeah,
I feel pretty good about that list. In that middle section is where it gets difficult for me. Basically, from like, what was that 6 down to 10? It's like some of those can be kind of hard
yeah,
to decide. But I still feel pretty strongly about like my top 5. Man, Lady and
absolutely.
the Tramp is just such a good movie. Rewatching that one, I think I was the most pleasantly surprised with that one
Yeah,
because I knew I liked Lady and the Tramp in general or kind of in the abstract, but then rewatching it, I was like, oh, Lady and the Tramp is excellent,
yeah. Lady and the
actually.
Tramp is fucking incredible. My God,
Really good movie.
I
Really strong story, only a couple things that take it down a notch, but like it's really strong.
mostly the ending, right? Like that's really where we had our
Yeah,
hangups.
where
Yeah,
it's just a little rushed, that's all.
yeah.
It's not the worst
Could
thing
be could be
ever.
way worse. Yeah, I so okay. This is kind of crazy because the Rescuers is next, right? And I think we've had some requests to do this, and I think that like when we do pick this back up again after, like I don't know, that's probably not going to be next week, but we'll see. When we do pick this back up again, I do want to do a double one of the Rescuers and the Fox and the Hound because I want to watch that transition period. And see
Sure.
if it's as stark as everybody kind of says that it is, right? I know now for a fact that I have seen the Rescuers Down Under. I do not know if I've ever seen the Rescuers. So I'm very curious to see if there's any like flashback, like if it all comes, back to me when we
All
start
comes
watching
rushing
this
back.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Someone in chat has asked us a couple times, have we seen bed knobs and broomsticks? Have you, Hugh? Because I don't think I have.
I remember seeing that as a kid, and for whatever reason, it did not like. I didn't like it. I don't know why, because I was like probably 8. Something about it,
Yeah.
I was just like, no, don't like it. Don't like it. Turn it off. Goodbye. Um,
It was produced by Bill Walsh for Walt Disney Productions and Walt Disney Cartoons, but not Walt Disney Animation Studios. So I think that's why it's not on our official list, but it's technically Disney, and it has animated lion and bear characters in it. It's got
Interesting.
Angela Lansbury and some other folks. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. Couldn't speak to it.
Yeah, it's been forever. But maybe at one point we could do like a brief detour in that one. That's sort of like because Brave Little Toaster is more of a like if you were going to argue that anything doesn't belong on this list, it's probably the Brave Little Toaster because that one is not a Disney movie, like technically, but it is picked up by Disney and distributed by them because so many ex-Disney animators were on it that they figured they would make some money off of how they trained these people. So it is like
Interesting.
it's a really strange blip on the radar, but I think it's going to be fun to watch because it is like a weird time for them, right? Like these movies coming up in the Dark Ages, whether or not they're actually worse than any of these others, right? They're not performing well, so they're trying to do anything they can to like keep the studio alive, even to the point of purchasing other animated movies that their ex-employees worked on for distribution. So I think that'll be fun to watch and talk
And
about
then,
too.
yes. And then, of course, once we get to that purple section,
I mean, once we get to
the,
the
li-
purple section,
the lists are
it's
going to
gonna get
be,
really
we're
difficult.
going to shake things up.
Yeah. Oh my god, man! I was re-listening to like what's Ariel's song? What's it called?
Part of your
Part of
world?
your world. Yeah.
Yeah.
The I want to be where the people are one. And
Yeah, yeah.
I
Her
think
I Want song. Yeah.
I messaged you about one of the lyrics from that song, right? Where like it just strikes you how fucking good the writers got at that point in Disney history. I can't wait to get to that because like when she
Yeah.
sings the line, like ask them some questions, get some answers. What's a fire and why does it? What's the word burn? It's like first of all, that makes perfect sense in context of a sea person, wanting to live on land. Second of all, this song is all about her passion, right? And like the metaphor of burning fire as your, the passion for something, right? Like for
Sure.
longing. It just works so well. It's so concise and like clever, but just it's not trying to outdo
Draw
an
too much attention
expectation
to
or
itself.
anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't draw any attention to itself, but it's so fucking good. They got so good starting with the Little
Yeah, and I
Mermaid.
think a
It's
lot of
amazing.
I mean, if you're just looking at the titles here for like the movies in the Dark Ages and stuff like that, basically they when they got to the Renaissance, they did a lot of returning to older stories, right? Little Mermaid is Hans Christian Andersen, Aladdin is obviously Arabian Nights, The Lion King is basically Hamlet, you know, Pocahontas, we'll talk about Pocahontas.
We'll get to it.
But you know what I
The
mean, like
most
Beauty and the
based
Beast,
of the
obviously. Uh, Mulan and Tarzan
Oh,
and
this
stuff like
is
that.
another interesting thing that people are asking about there. Like, what about an American tale? Because it's not Disney, but it is Don Bluth, who was a famous Disney animator. Now, this is interesting because for a really long time, actually, until it started creeping up on us that we were going to be doing The Rescuers, I thought The Rescuers and American Tail were the same movie.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I had no fucking idea that they were different, right? Fievel Mouskowitz is like I just figured that was the guy. That's also a Steven Spielberg movie, technically, I think,
Yeah,
right? Like
he
I don't know if
produced
we're
it.
gonna if we're gonna talk about that
Probably
one.
not. because we don't want to open it up completely to non-Disney things, because then it just gets kind of unwieldy.
Yeah.
Trying to limit it a little bit,
The one
the
that
little
everybody
play in the
forgets is a
margin.
Disney or isn't a Disney movie, being like Anastasia from
Yeah, which
yeah,
is great, but we're not going to talk about it on this. Not on this arc.
yeah.
Might just talk about it separately because it's good. But
It won't make this list. I mean, maybe we'll bring it up, at some point as we go through. Um, but yeah, not
yeah,
going to bring that up on here. But I would be curious to revisit American Tail at some point. And Fievel Goes West, where he becomes like he gets in with a bordello cat, like a cat that owns a brothel or something. I can't really. Anyway, uh, so
that's the list. I feel
that's the
pretty good
list.
about our
Yeah.
list.
Next time we do a Disney one, we'll combine the Rescuers and the Fox and the Hound and see if the dip is as stark and immediate as people seem to think.
Yeah. That's all I got for this one.
Yeah.
Hopefully, by the next time we stream, we'll have sorted out the problem where YouTube turned off monetization for our channel for no good reason. Hopefully, we'll figure that out this week. And we'll see you next week for whatever we talk about then. We're not going to tell you now, but you will find out next Sunday, whatever that is. But thank you for joining us and for your fine contributions to the chat as always. Thank you for being well behaved enough that you appear on screen. We appreciate that.
Yes.
And
We like when we look like a real stream with a real channel.
yes, feels good. Anyway, thanks for joining us, friends. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. Ta
Goodbye.
ta for now. See
BFN.
you. Yeah.